Stand by 10 seconds. Stand by to initiate release sequencer. On my mark. 5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2, 1. Mark.
Guys ready to get picked up? Here we go. No. We're going to be an authentic guy today. We're going to be authentic men. Coming in hot, I say. Oh boy. Hey, how's it going? Let me switch over here because I was monkeying around with the Greyhound cam today, live in studio. I have with me Mr. Ned Tomassi. Tell everybody how you're doing, Ned. Ned? Yeah, I think he's asleep. Oh boy, here we go. You guys want to see me? Oops, my bad. Let me switch over. Is that it? There we go. Buenos dias. How's it going today? All right. So this is my last show before I go out to Miami. Figured I would do something special for you guys. I'm coming in a little bit hot today. That's the reason why I'm doing today's topic. Did you guys like the music today? Kind of change things up a little bit. People keep asking me about that. They say, well, you know, where'd the music come from? I play in a band called Trial of Ascension. If you are looking for music, you won't find that one because that was actually a piece that I did a long time ago that I kind of repurposed for this show. When I decided to do this on Sundays and actually make an actual show of this, I thought, you know, I'm gonna put some music into this. I have done in the past. You guys probably don't know this. I have done in the past bumper music for radio shows and podcasts and stuff like that. I'm actually here. I'm going to give you here's a hot tip for you. If you are a musician, get into doing like little 30-second clips of. Did I got Sam? Oh, there's Sammy. Hi, Sam. Sam is in the house today too. Get into doing like 30-second, maybe 40-second clips, maybe even less than that. I guess you could probably do 20-second clips of intro music for podcasts and live streams and things like that, because that's very lucrative, especially if you can do something that's cool that people really like, and then you can put it up you can either manage the rights yourself or you can go and put it up on one of these services. A lucrative career, one of the benefits of being in a technological age. We're going to talk about that a little bit today, too, as a matter of fact. I am not a pickup artist. I think a lot of people make that mistake. They say, wow, that Rollo, I'm either a pickup artist or I am a simp, right? I'm married, so therefore I can't be anything other than a simp or blue pill or whatever else you want to throw at me. It doesn't matter that I've written 4 books. It doesn't matter that people refer to me as the godfather of the manosphere. It doesn't matter what the 20 some odd years that I've been doing this. It's just whatever is in their very immature minds. So I thought maybe I would go back over some old school stuff here today, because I get a lot of guys asking me about how do I learn game? Where's the book on game? How do I get into game? What is this game of which you speak? and I'm always at a loss because, hey, Emery from Turkey, I'm always at a loss because I don't have a book that I can really show you these days. Game didn't evolve from books, really. It evolved more from guys who were sort of like in the seduction communities And as I was doing my research for today's show, or I should say today's class.
Hello there, children. How's it going?
Today's class, of course, Sundays is more academic. Wednesdays is sort of like a free-for-all, but Sunday's show is a little bit more academic. You'll notice that I put the red pill lessons in the actual thumbnails for the Sunday shows. And that's really what I intend to do with this. I started out doing this show on Sundays with Pat Campbell, and it was really kind of like, I think we called it Red Pill 101 was the first incarnation of this show. And then, Pat had to go and, Pat had his thing. So, and Pat's doing okay. A lot of people have been asking me in the comments about, hey, what's going on with Pat Campbell? Pat is recovering from chemotherapy. I think he's done it twice now. I know he's did it once. I don't know if he's done it twice just yet, but Pat is recovering from chemo. Although I know he is back on the air again. He's back on his terrestrial radio show, which is in Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Pat, if you are watching this, your book is going out this week. He asked me for a signed copy. I put it. Pat actually features quite a bit in Religion, the one you see here. And not the least of which, because a lot of the conversations that I had with him and Dr. Everett Piper found its way into parts of Religion, of my fourth book. So Pat's doing okay. You could go hit him up on Twitter. He's very, I think Pat's actually probably more active on Facebook than he is on Twitter. So if you want to go look him up on Facebook, he's not hard to find. And tell him you wish him well. Ask him how he's doing. It's better to ask him than me, because I haven't really. There was a time about a year ago that I had daily conversations with Pat, but since his accident and everything that's sort of happened after that, he's got things to do, and I've been writing the book, and we've been going through a lot of stuff. So I'm trying to catch up with Pat. So just so you guys know. Anyways, yeah, chemo is very much horrible. Ask me how I know, not me personally, but I have. Pat's not the only friend I know who has had cancer before. So yeah, it's not good. Put it that way. It's not good on the human body. So today we're going to talk about pickup artistry. We're going to talk about PUA, and it's not what you think it is. As I said before, I am not a pickup artist. People throw me in with that. They'll throw me in with I get accused by really kind of two different sides of the coin here when it comes to pickup artistry or pickup PUA. Now, I was around when Eric von Markovic, who is otherwise known as Mystery, was doing his thing. I remember when around 2003, when the Project Hollywood and all that other stuff was going on, I was just sort of a casual bystander and all that. I was just sort of watching, and reading online. I wasn't actually part of any of that. So just so you guys know, I'm not a part of that crew. That was sort of what got me interested in writing about what I write about, because I happened to be at finishing up my degree in university, and it was something that I got into, and I decided to double major because of that. I was just simply going to do, I have a bachelor's in fine arts, and I also have a bachelor's in behavioral psychology. And I decided to double major as a result because of what I was seeing going on in the seduction community. And I decided to put my money where my mouth is. I have taken women in literature. I've taken women's studies classes as well, so that I could understand what was being said and what was being delivered in academia at that time as well. So just so you guys know, I put my money where my mouth is. I actually decided that I was going to at least make that much of a commitment. Now, the reason why, like, a lot of people say, well, why don't you go back and get your master's degree? Why don't you go back and get a doctorate or something like that? People will take you more seriously if you're Dr. Rollo Tomassi, Professor Emeritus, right? And the reason I don't do that is simply because academia is lost right now. And I'm not sure that they're going to teach me much of anything that I can't already sort of glean online from from my professors like God Sod or Marty Hazelton or Gangstad or David Buss, or a lot of people, who I draw a lot of inspiration from, and then I get a lot of information from. I am probably not going to be able to do something like a master's thesis or a doctoral thesis or something like that based on like red pill, because I probably get tossed out of whatever university there is, certainly here in the United States. And really, what would I do with that? Would I start my own practice? One of the reasons I didn't do that is because a lot of people said that the only way to make any kind of money in psychology is to start your own practice, right? You have to get a doctorate. And I was not about to put that much in. I wanted to invest in it, but I didn't want to invest that much in it. So I think a lot of guys get really kind of lost in the credentialism side of things when it comes to psychology, certainly when it comes to like traditional fields of psychology. And a lot of people think of psychology as like, I'm going to go sit on the couch and like talk about my feelings, right? That's cognitive therapy, right? That's like psychotherapy is what that is. That's like, let's sit and talk about your childhood. Let's sit and talk about what your feelings are about these things. And you have to remember that really since I think 2012 or 2014, somewhere around there, the percentage of college graduates who graduate with a psychology degree, something like 87. It's probably maybe even higher than that. The last numbers I saw, 87% of college graduates who graduate with a psychology degree are women. So when guys come up to me and they go, well, Rolf Dengren said that, the ovulatory shift is nonsense. They quote one study, a recent study, because the little girls in the psychology department decided that they didn't like the idea of ovulatory shift. And so they throw that out there, and guys like Rolf pick up on that. And if you go and you look at anything that Rolf, I've been on his case for a long time. You can go back and look at my tweets from like 2017, where I point out the fact that he never talks about studies and experiments that do replicate. He never talks about things. He never talks about the data sets, the overwhelming, robust data sets that I'll say prove, but certainly reinforce and back up the idea of ovulatory shift. They never talk about that. They never talk about 25 to 30 years of this kind of research. They only talk about one study. They only talk about one thing that sort of, I guess we better throw everything out the window then. No, you're talking about one study that is recent from the latest crop of female graduates in college right now. So while I'm willing to listen to that, let's compare that and let's contrast that, let's say, against the 30 some odd years of study that shows that ovulatory shift is in fact a thing. So is how much of a thing? Well, we can debate that all day long. But when you start your conversations with, I guess this is the final nail in the coffin for ovulatory shift. Well, then of course, and if that is part of your ideological sort of belief set, then yeah, that's good enough for me. I'm convinced. Well, that's not how the scientific method works, first of all. And second of all, that's just basically opinion at that stage. And then if you go in and nobody really takes the time to, and I noted this in I think the final parts of book 4 of religion. I say, nobody really bases their belief sets on peer review, multiple peer reviewed meta-analysis, independently funded studies of whatever it is that they're, considering. People form their belief sets based on lived experience before anything else. And usually that lived experience is something that is associated with the emotional interpretive state, process and the emotional interpretive process, which is something I've talked about for a long time. So I just wanted to address that here really quickly, because a lot of people get really upset when I refer to pickup artistry as sort of like the forerunners for a lot of what came after as far as evolutionary psychology is concerned. I think it was Nick Krauser. I've quoted Nick. I've quoted this of Nick in at least one essay, and I think in maybe one or two of my books. Nick Krauser, who was still is. I like Nick still. I don't think he's really sort of in the pickup artist industry anymore. Assuming even calling it an industry right now is a little weird for me. However, Nick Krauser, I've quoted him as saying that I think he tweeted this one time. He said, 15 years of pickup artistry has done more for social sciences in like interpersonal, intersexual dynamics and understanding it than, all of psychology combined for the last 100 years. And that's primarily because we've never been able to do the things that early pickup artists did. And that's where I wanted to start today, is because for as much as everybody lambasts, there's your vocabulary word, pickup artists today, they don't realize the debt that they really owe to pickup artistry and to the early pickup artists. And it's not that guys like, Eric Markovic or Mystery or Neil Strauss or the rest of these guys who are like part of the projects in Hollywood and wherever else they were, or Real Social Dynamics, which sort of came out of that whole set, or alt-fast seduction, or any of the early seduction communities. And by early, whenever I say early seduction communities, I'm going to use that phrase a lot today. When I talk about that, it's the guys who were sort of in the field back in 2001 through about 2009. And I would I would reckon, I would put Roosh in that, in the early stages, like back in maybe 2008, 2009. And then Roosh sort of came into his own right around maybe 2009 through 2013, 14, somewhere around there. And then that's when Roosh lost his mind. So there is that side. I would definitely put Roosh in there. I would put myself in there, the 3 R's of the manosphere, right? Royce, Roosh, and Rollo. Those were the 3 that were around back in, I would call this like post-PUA, post-seduction community. So the early seduction community was really like Mystery, Neil Strauss, Owen Cook, who was Tyler Durden, whatever they call themselves. All the guys that you read about in the book The Game that was written by Neil Strauss, which I still think is an entertaining read. It will certainly introduce you to the personalities of the early pickup artists / seduction community set that was going on back then. I'm throwing this out there because not enough people know this. Not enough people, especially in 2021, realize what was going on in 2001. We're talking about 20 years. Excuse me. The events that happened in the game, which was published in 2005, occurred right around 2002, 2003 to 2004-ish, I think. I'm not sure how long it took Neil Strauss to actually write the game, but the events that are described in there took place in the very early 2000s. And I'll just give you a little bit of personal history here. I have been part of that community, as far as like online community, since about 2002. That's when I became active on SOSWAV, the SOSWAV forum boards. I was a moderator, right? I think they made me a mod at about like 2006. The earliest that you have to remember that SOSWAV was its first incarnation got deleted, and then there was a second incarnation that came after it in 2004-ish. So you can go back if you go on soswav.net and you look on the forums there, and you just do in the search, if you type into the search engine that's on there, you put Rollo Tomassi, you'll find my earliest posts in there. And I mean like back to 2004. The Rollo Tomassi that is on there, that is me. So if you go and you look at those old, way old posts, and in some cases like 16, 18 years old, that was me. And that's where a lot of the material that I got interested in came from, those discussions, the debates that we had on there, the principles and the ideals and the ideas, I guess, that I put into my first book, into The Rational Male, all find their roots in those discussions that we had on soswab.net, alt-fast seduction, and like a few others that are, I think the forums that are not even around anymore. In Malafide was another one. The Spearhead was another one. Those are sort of aggregate blogs. They were kind of like Return of Kings. I don't know if you guys even remember Return of Kings now. Return of Kings was, I think it was Roosh's answer to like the Huffington Post or Jezebel. It was like an aggregate blog kind of thing, and any people that he was cool with could write for it. He was, after a while, he became not cool with me, so I actually have one post that I put on Return of Kings, and that was my first and my last post that I ever did on Return of Kings. But that aggregate blog is gone. A lot of people don't even remember it. You can still find it on Wayback Machine, I think. You can certainly find Spearhead posts on Wayback Machine. The Spearhead used to be kind of like an aggregate of a lot of game posts. Then it got really political, and then it kind of dissolved. In Malafide, same thing. There was a lot of other ones. People probably don't even know what the hell I'm talking about, but these were aggregate blogs that were really, let's just say, proto-manosphere. I don't even know if people really even go to, like, I mean, I'm sure people still go to the Red Pill Reddit occasionally, but again, the Red Pill Reddit is still, it's still locked, right? It's still in quarantine. Literally, it's still in quarantine almost 3 years later. It's certainly 2.5 years later now. They decided to quarantine it and just sort of like wall it off so you could, like, they didn't want to delete it because there's like close to 500,000 is it 300,000? Maybe it's 500,000. Somewhere around 300,000 to 500,000 users were on the Red Pill subreddit for a long time until they quarantined it, and it just turned into this really inbred, it just turned into crap. And so that was I think an extension of the manosphere. I would also say that for a while anyways, the Return of Kings aggregate blog was influential, let's say. I know Roosh V forums are still around too, but again, they're sort of a shadow of what they used to be. I really need to start a forum. I really need to start like a Rational Male forum or something, just so people can have that conversation, because there's really not much going on as far as I guess in-depth conversation, like talking about game or talking about like intersexual dynamics. So Suave is still around. You can go to So Suave, and I would suggest going there and reading, but I only lurk on So Suave now. So in case you guys were wondering about that, there's a lot of good material from you got to remember, So Suave's been around for a long time. So you can go and really sort of dig in deep, or you can just sort of go surface level on that kind of stuff. So check that out as well. So when we talk about pickup today, when I talk about the early pickup artists, this is where a lot of this material comes from. Now, you guys have probably seen my shows where I'm talking to like Myron Gaines, or I'm talking to John, who I see is in the chat right now. What's up? And game has evolved, but the thing is the perception of game has not evolved, and there's a reason why it hasn't. You have to remember that when I talk about game, or I talk about PUA, or I talk about red pill awareness, those are separate topics. A lot of guys still think that, like, if I refer to game, that I must mean I'm talking about pickup artistry. And I've said this before, I'll give you the definition one more time. When I talk about game, it's what is the skill set? What is the belief set? What is your approach to going from single and sexless to being in a relationship, to being married, to starting a family, whatever it is, like whatever your long-term goal happens to be. It might not be that at all, but how do you go about, what do you think are the best practices from going from not having a girlfriend, Johnny, to having a girlfriend, Johnny? What do you think is the best way? And we learn and pick up those things along the way, whether that's by our socialization, our family, our church, our acculturation, that kind of stuff, whatever it is that taught you to think that the best way to get with a girl is to be her friend, and to be familiar with her, and to start out as friends, and to do, or it might be, you learn some kind of formal game, right? You learn how to apply things like Amuse Mastery or Cocky Funny or whatever it is. Even if you never took a course, even if you never even heard of pickup, maybe that just simply came natural to you. Maybe you're one of these guys who is a quote unquote natural, who gets rewarded for being like hot and sexy and funny and whatever. Maybe you're the hot guy in the foam cannon party, right? But you're 13, 14 years old. And from that time until you're 28 years old, your approach to intersexual dynamics has been shaped by your lived experience. Not by reading The Rational Male, not by taking any kind of, seduction courses, or learning how to do the cube or the square, whatever the hell it is, learning pickup lines and all this other stuff. It was just a natural way of you, because you were always rewarded for that. So it was reinforced for you. And then therefore those behaviors reinforce and set and establish those beliefs about how you are going to deal with women and deal with your girlfriends, how to get sex, that kind of stuff on a one-to-one basis or whatever. Maybe you don't believe in spinning plates, but you're still an alpha and you've always been lucky with the ladies, like luck, right? Even the idea of luck is part of that acculturation. It's part of that socialization. Did you get lucky, right? The idea that a guy getting sex from a woman is in some way a stroke of luck or genius or fortune or a God thing or whatever you want to call it. The idea that it is in some way like metaphysical, that she just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And I saw her across the high school, gymnasium at the high school dance. And there she was, right? That kind of stuff. If that romanticism, the romantic ideal, is part of your game. Now, how effective that game is for you as a guy is what I talk about. That's what we get into. We get into the nuts and bolts. We look under the hood. We decide, okay, well, this is working. This is not working, whatever. Yeah, exactly. Well, she just, she fell on my dick, right? That's, luckily she just happened to walk in the room at that time. And then, so therefore nature took its course and that was that. I was drunk. He was cute. And one thing led to another. So that is game in a nutshell. How effective that game is, who taught you that game, how you came to the idea of that game is really what red pill awareness it uses as its practice. That's the experimental stage, right? And by stage, I mean, it's like the environment, it's the field work. So when the early pickup artists came around and here we have this brand new invention and it's called the internet, and we can all get together all over the world and we can compare notes as guys. Of course they're going to do that. Of course we're going to get together. Of course men are interested in sex. Men are interested in solving their reproductive problems. Men are interested in how best to go about going from single and sexless to getting with a girl, right? Or however you mean that. If you're nice about it and you want to be boyfriend and girlfriend and hold her hand, that's one thing. If it's another thing, if you want to get laid and you want to increase your notch count. Whatever. I'm not saying, well, that's the goal. I'm not saying it's a game. I'm not saying it's a game in the sense that these are the actions that you're playing, but it's not like, well, I got a higher notch count than you, so therefore I win, right? That's not what I'm talking about. When I talk about game, I'm talking about the actual approach, the practice of all of that. Red pill awareness evolved from game. Black pill, blue pill, purple pill, God pill, dad pill, this pill, that pill, every pill that you can freaking throw at me, all of that came from one freaking place. And that was PUA. That was from the early PUA guys who were out there doing the legwork. And they were doing seminars? Yes. Were they doing DVDs? Yes. Were they doing videos that you can still find on YouTube? Yes. Of course they were. Does all of that still apply today? Not necessarily. Depends on the context, depends on what they're talking about. The principles are still sound, but maybe the practices are a little bit dated. In some cases, they're a lot dated. So as the technology and as the society develops, as we grow into a global sexual marketplace and sort of lean away from the local sexual marketplace, which is still valid, by the way. I think a lot of people throw this at me. They say, well, if we're in a global sexual marketplace, then why do I care about the local sexual marketplace? Because that's where you're at. Because the club that's here in Reno, Nevada or whatever, or Las Vegas or Miami, wherever you happen to be, those clubs are your local sexual marketplace. You're dealing with a mentality of women who are sort of still living in the global sexual marketplace. But when you meet them face to face, it's your local sexual marketplace. So where are you at? What are you doing? Guys are like, well, I live in Butte, Montana. There's no hot chicks here. They're all fat, little, chubby, little veal cows. Okay, then leave. and go fishing where the fish are. That's really easy to figure out. But the reason for that is because your local sexual marketplace, slim pickings, there's not the girls that you want to get with. Okay, then you've got to do something. You've got to pick up your ass and move. Sorry, I just kicked the tripod. My bad. But even the idea of a local versus global sexual marketplace is a principle or an idea that extended that grew from the early pickup artist communities. So when people throw rocks at you and they call you're a pickup artist, like Rollo Tomassi is a pickup artist. Yeah, he says go and bang anything on two legs because, he says spin plates, date non-exclusively. How dare he? That's usually the trad guns that are doing something like that. Sometimes it's black pill guys because they think that if you go out there and you actually make some sort of efforts to, improve yourself, if you make some efforts to even like, if you so much as like walk out your front door, you're only doing it because you want to get laid. You're a pussy beggar. What? How? I just walked out. I just went to go get the trash can. Wow, you just want to look cool when you're out there grabbing that trash can. Get back in there and lay down and die like the rest of us. You're a pickup artist if you can walk out the front door and go get your trash can. Like those kinds of things. Like you can take it to really illogical, absurd extremes. So when I hear guys throw around the moniker of pickup artists, I have to really kind of take it with a grain of salt because 90% of these guys have no clue who a pickup artist is. Their idea of a pickup artist is Leisure Suit Larry. Do you guys remember Leisure Suit Larry? Go look it up. Go look it up on Google right now. Leisure Suit Larry was from an old, like I think 80s, early 80s, maybe late mid 80s video game. And it was The Adventures of Leisure Suit Larry. And he was this pickup artist from like the 70s or something like that. I don't know. He's always wearing that shark skin suit. And it's like early like computer / video game kind of thing. And you were always kind of titillated because if you did the right thing or if you moved him in the right ways, then suddenly you could see like so the girl's like top comes off or you're sitting in the hot tub. And Leisure Suit Larry is in no way an alpha male. He's the guy that is he's a cartoon, literally is a cartoon character. And he's sitting there in a hot tub and he's like throwing the right lines out. If you say the right thing and the right combination of lines, then the girl's top comes off or whatever. And it was like early, like, online, like cyber porn, right? I guess digital porn for a long time. And of course it's all tongue in cheek and it's really kind of silly, but like people took it to heart back then. And I think today, if you made that game, like women would lose their minds. I think there was wasn't there a video game or maybe there's an app around that's sort of like game-like where it teaches you, or it's like an app that would teach you how to open a set and how to, and it was like very game-like. And I think women like just lost their minds. Probably an app that I don't think Apple really carries any, like the iTunes store doesn't carry anymore. But Leisure Suit Larry he's the epitome of what I think is the caricature that enters guys' minds when they talk about PUA. You're a PUA. You're a pickup artist. You look like, if you saw you look like this. Let me just throw this back up there real quick. You look like this right here, the guy in the center. That is Eric Von Market. Like that's mystery, right? He's got black fingernail polish. If you've ever seen some of the more extreme pictures of Eric, he's got a big feather boa. He looks like a rock star. In some ways, he looks kind of like, David Bowie, like Ziggy Stardust or something in some of his pictures where he's got elevator boots on. Looks like he's like Paul Stanley, like on stage, right? He's from Kiss. He's got the big top hat. I think he even had like a t-shirt that had like some sort of like digital message that went across it for a while there too. And so that's the image. Like mystery, it was the Leisure Suit Larry, and so was to a lesser degree, I think Neil Strauss. They were the Leisure Suit Larrys of the early 2000s, the early pickup artists, and so that's what people kind of like when they hear pickup or they hear the word game. That's what enters their brain. Those guys, the guy is dressed in like sort of this this pirate's coat outfit. What is he, the captain of the ship? Or if you go and you look at what was it, the Pickup Artist, which was a show that was on VH1. I think you could probably go look at it in the archives or like the reruns if you wanted to, but I think it was like the late 2000s that came out. Maybe it was like 2012. Somewhere around there. And it was a big deal. It was funny. And people were like, oh, it's so cringe. And you would watch it. Like the reason it was popular because it was like cringe inducing. And the reason it was cringe inducing is because that's what people's idea of what PUA was. And I think that in a way, they're right in some ways, because in a lot of ways, the guys who got into it in no way should have been into it. They just saw it as like, oh, this is a really lucrative grift. Let's get into it right now. So if you look at some of the early PUAs who kind of migrated over into RSD, which is real social dynamics, if you look at the guys who got into that, you will notice that if you follow them to any great degree, you will notice that they go from being the sort of like loser nerdy guy to like, people start taking them seriously and they start getting more friends and being more social. And then suddenly they go from being, in mysteries like alt fast seduction or whatever. They move into RSD. RSD then says, well, this is kind of dying now. We don't want to deal with any kind of lawsuits. We don't want to deal with Me Too. So now we're going to go the Tony Robbins route, and we're going to suddenly be like success porn grifters, right? And by that, I mean like, it's like this motivational stuff, or it's woo-woo magical, The Secret, the law of attraction, send out positive juju into the universe and good fortune and things will, it's almost like I make this comparison actually in religion. It's what I call the hustle economy, and they get into this positivity grift, which is really kind of a religion. It's a religious grift. That's what evangelical televangelists have been selling for a long time. It's just a modernization of it. It's like televangelism for guys who are non-religious, or guys who want to get laid, guys who want to wish success and entrepreneurship, and if I just think positive thoughts, a big juicy T-bone steak will appear in my freezer. If I just think the right thoughts, then my bank account will come into being, right? I'll suddenly have $100,000 on my bank account, that kind of stuff. I remember back in right before the housing crash of like 2007. I remember in evangelical circles, it was all about the prosperity teachings. And there's something I talk about in religion. There's so many parallels between guys like Creflo Dollar or even like Sheila Gregoire. You guys don't know who I'm talking about, but Creflo Dollar you probably do. But the guys who are like, you deserve a house and you deserve success and you deserve all this stuff and you deserve a no interest loan on your house and you deserve like 0% interest rates for this long, and you deserve that because that's what God wants you to have. And if you look at those kinds of like, oh, well, I prayed hard enough for it and the Lord loves me and blah, blah, blah. Now I've got this great stuff. Well, of course, these are the guys who filed for bankruptcy and went into foreclosure in 2009 2008, after the housing crash. It's the same kind of energy. And by energy, I mean, it's the same kind of grift, or it's the same motivation and incentive that I see in that kind of positivity grift thing. So we see this transition from these guys who are Leisure Suit Larry to being more like, some of them, went along with it. Like that was their vocation. They decided, I'm not going to, if you look at like, say, Roosh is a very good example of this. The dude has a degree, at least I still think he has a degree in biochemistry, and really went to school, wanted to be a biochemist, and thought that was going to be his life's path, and then decided that it was more lucrative for him to go write lay guides for, bang Brazil, bang Denmark, bang Poland, bang this, bang that. Was a dead bat in Venezuela, 30 bangs, Pussy Paradise, all this, like one after the other. And he made a lot of money at it. I'm sure that's how he got his reputation. He was one of the 3 R's in the manosphere. So that's how he got where he was at, but he's certainly not a biochemist. He's not going to go, and in no way is he going to go back to that vocation because of his reputation and the decisions that he decided, this is the direction and the path that I want to go in my life. Same thing with guys like Todd Valentine. Same thing with guys like Owen Cook, Tyler Durden guy. Same thing with guys like Neil Strauss. Neil Strauss what's funny is I think probably the book that Neil Strauss will be known the most for will be The Game. People still come back to it. I see it right there in my bookcase behind me right now. It's right above it, Ned. And it was like one of these books that was like, people were really into it because it was entertaining. It was certainly red meat. It was something that was indignation inspiring. Certainly in women, but like it was something that was entertaining for guys because they wanted to see what was going on, and they wanted to see how, even if you weren't going to be a PUA, you were still curious. Even if even if you hated PUAs, you still could get something out of The Game because it was fun. It was fun to read about Courtney Love. It was fun to read about Tom Cruise. It was fun to read about all the sort of misadventures that Mystery and Neil Strauss had. And now what I think is kind of ironic is even in hindsight, even since 2005 when it published, he published The Dirt which was a biography of Motley Crue, which turned into The Dirt, which was on Netflix. Really great show. I'm sure he made a good chunk of change off of that. Wrote a book, was it How to Bang Like a Porn Star, How to F Like a Porn Star? And I think he did an interview of Jenna Jameson, or he did a biography of Jenna Jameson. And then, so he's doing all this stuff, and then out comes the sort of the anti-game, which is the truth. And you can see sort of this move away from all of that kind of like hip, cool stuff. And he's always been really liberal and hippie and dippy. And if you know anything about the guy, it's understandable that he would feel bad about having wrote that book. And so he writes the truth. And now the truth is supposed to be some sort of like counterbalance to the game. And honestly, if you go and you look at, I would say this, maybe I should go look at the numbers for this, but I would say probably the most popular book that he's ever written has probably been The Game, maybe the Motley Crue book. I don't know. But I would say that if it's a close second, it's probably The Game is what he's most well known for. And that's the one that he has to keep coming back to, because that's when people like nobody cares about the stuff that he's written since then. They only care about that. Remember when what was Mystery really like? Like I can imagine, like if he was just walking down the street, or some, anonymously comes up to him, like what's the first thing they ask him if they know that if they're familiar with him, first of all, and then second of all, what do they ask a guy like that? Probably going to ask him something about the game. Probably ask him something about that. So, sorry. Today's coffee by Devil Mountain Coffee. Okay. I finally got my deep, dark, high caffeine coffee. So if I'm a little, that's why. So anyways, let me backtrack a little bit here. I got some people who wanted to, like this guy, Samurai says, in the past, women were required to stay virgins until marriage, in part, I believe, to limit their hypergamy. Would that still work given smartphones? No. And you know that the answer is no, Samurai Flag. Because since the sexual revolution, the value that we put on virginity for women is out the window. We call that sexual repression. If we say a woman should stay a virgin, that's you're limiting her. You're holding her back. You're repressing her sexuality. Why do you have that problem, Mr. Patriarch? Why do you have that problem, Mr. Misogynist? Why do you want to do something like that? They don't look at the latent purpose behind that. This is actually a pretty good question. The reason for that is because women will make it an emotional issue, not a practical, not a logical, not a rational, reasonable issue. They don't look at the latent purpose behind the push for women to stay virgins. Another thing I cover in book 4. Why is that a good idea? Why is it a good idea to refrain from sex before marriage? Well, there's a lot of practical reasons for that. It doesn't have to be, well, the Bible says this, the Torah says this, the Quran says that. It doesn't have to be that. That's the metaphorical truth about it. The real practical truth is the more partners, the higher end count that a woman has, the higher the incidence, or the higher the probability that one of those guys that she was banging is the widow, or is the alpha that she's widowed from. That's why. That's very simply put. Why is it that, you could say, well, she might have diseases or something. It might be a pathogen thing. Yeah, well, that's certainly part of it too. That we can add that to the list of rational, reasonable reasons why a woman should stay a virgin until she's married. We can talk about it and of course, women are going to hear this and go, well, guys should too, if that's the case. Well, I'm not saying they shouldn't. There's also practical reasons for guys to do that as well. But the reason for that is, prior to the sexual revolution, prior to the advent of hormonal birth control, we had stigmas, we had buffers against social stigmas, religious stigmas, against promiscuity in women and in men, although we tolerated it a little bit more in men than we did for women because we lived in a more androcentric, I don't say patriarchal social order. Now we live in a gynocentric social order that prioritizes the needs and the expressions and the emotionality and the emotionalism of women above every other consideration. So when you say, oh, well, you should stay a virgin until you're married. Well, how dare you? What am I, a slut? You're saying I'm a slut? No, I'm not saying that, but that's the emotional reaction that they have. So yes, it is to limit hypergamy. And you are also correct that smartphones and the internet and the new order meaning the new order of technology and communication and globalization. All of that has done nothing but exacerbate that and spread it across the world exponentially. So yeah, so and sooner or later, even into the most repressive countries, even in societies where those stigmas still kind of exist, you will see that within 1 to 2 generations, they will cease to exist. End of story. Super Slavansky, nice name. I'm sorry to hear that there's sufficit of cynicism and vulgarity amongst many red pill voices. Any deficit, I guess you meant deficit, of intellect. It should be more front man like you. It should be more front man like me. I'm not a front man. I'm actually, I'm a second guitarist. I've never been a front man. Never been a singer. Never been the guy leading the show. I have done a lot of acting, by the way, as all of you black pill fuckwits want to smear me with. That's fine. Yes, I have done acting before. I've done lots of Shakespearean acting, actually, stage acting primarily. So when people go and they show, oh look, here's Rollo Tomassi and he's doing this. He's doing some what was it, tryout or some shit. Like I think I did a commercial tryout back in like 2013, 2014, and I left it on one of my my YouTube channels. It's gone now. Don't go looking for it. I'd already deleted it. But of course they go and they download that and they go, oh look, see, this is what it's really all about. They don't go and say, wow, Rollo Tomassi's been in the red pill and been a part of this community and been writing what he's been writing for almost 20 years. They don't say that. They go, because that's where they're at. That's the mentality right now. I wanted to get onto that as well. Is right now we're looking at a new generation of guys that are coming into the manosphere, but the manosphere is already set. We had no, like back when I was writing about this stuff back in 2004, back on the SoSuave forums, when I was getting into PUA or game or seduction or whatever you want to call it, I wasn't like some Leisure Suit Larry. I was actually picking it apart because I happened to be going to university at the same time that I was doing all of this. But we don't talk about that. No. We don't talk about that. We don't want to. We don't talk about the fact that the guys who are critical of me, or guys who are critical of the guys that I hang out with, or the guys that I endorse, or the guys that I do Rule Zero with. We don't talk about like the history. We don't talk about what they did to be in the position where they're at. We don't talk about that. We don't talk about the fact that I've got over just about almost 20 years of background, let's just say, in what is now it wasn't even called the manosphere back then. It was called something else. I don't know. It was the seduction community, I guess, PUA, game, whatever. It wasn't even called that. Well, we don't talk about the fact that the guys who are like all critical of it right now, the 20-something-year-olds that were all critical, they were about 12 years old, if that, 10 years old maybe, when I was talking about this stuff. Certainly, if you're 30 years old, and I've been doing this for 20 years, I've been writing for 20 years, when I started, you were 10. So you're just coming into this right now. Do your homework. You owe it to yourself to do your homework. That's what this whole thing is. That's why I kind of treat this like a class. That's why I treat this as like and I hate to sound like Tom Likas or something like that, but I have to. It has to be kind of because you're not going to get this information anywhere else. You're not going to get the breakdowns that I give you when it comes to PUA, when it comes to learning game, when it comes to red pill awareness. You're not going to get that from anywhere else. I don't care. Corey Wayne, Corey Wayne probably picked up a lot of the stuff that he goes into from my books. God, Red Pill Coach. I can show you videos where the dude talks about exactly the shit that I've been going into since 2002. And again, even the guys I like, even the guys I endorse and the guys I cooperate with, like Ryan and Rich and everybody else, I was like, okay, but they paid their dues. They were there, especially Ryan. Like Ryan has been part of when I met Ryan, I think it was like 2015. I think it was back on the Reddit, the Red Pill subreddit, when it was actually good enough to read. And I could tell. That's why I invited him to come out to that ill-fated convention in 2017, which I still apologize. Sorry, Ryan, for inviting you to that stupid thing. But I did so because I thought he was a good guy. I could sort of read him. I talked to him well enough. I invited him, and that was that. And I met him in person. Same thing with Rich Cooper. Rich Cooper hit me up. I didn't hit him up. Lots of people, a lot of guys will say, well, how come you hang out with John? How come you hang out with John from Modern Life Dating? You guys don't know my history with John, because I knew John before John was John. I remember when John just had a blog, and it was Modern Life Dating, the blog. And what was it? I think he and Nick Krauser had some kind of beef back in like 2014, 2015. And I thought it was kind of unfair at the time. And John really was just sort of, he and I don't think we even talked about like PUA. I knew that was what he was into, but we didn't even talk about that. We were talking about crypto, or like he's the one that got me into to crypto or whatever. So, but again, people who know the history. So if you're going to criticize me, and I don't want this to be just sort of like some bitch fest on my part, but like if you're going to criticize me or anybody else for that matter, from the people that I associate with, or maybe I don't even associate that with them. If you're going to talk about it and say, well, I think this guy, Todd Valentine or Corey Wayne, or who I honestly don't know, but if you're going to hold them up as sort of this example of like, he's a great maybe he is, I don't know, but go and do your homework. Where did that come from? Where did all that stuff come from? I can remember when like people will tell me, like they'll say this, like, well, how come you have a beef with Roosh? Like, I didn't have a beef with Roosh. That's the problem. Is like people think that, well, because you have a beef. You have a beef with Anthony Johnson. You have a beef with Roosh. You have a beef with this guy. You have a beef with that. You have a beef with Pat Campbell. You're goddamn right I do, because I know the history and you don't. I was there, man. It's like that scene in The Lord of the Rings when Elrond is like, I was there 3,000 years ago. Feels like 3,000 years ago. I was there. I saw it. I had it happen to me personally. That's why. It's not a beef. It's freaking me going, you know what? I know who these people are, and you can hold them up as your martyr or your holy man or your good teacher or whatever you want to. And I'm going to go by what I've known and what I've worked with and what I've done for the last 20 years and my assessment of their character and being a good judge of character. As I keep saying, you can judge people. It's okay to, in fact, sometimes your life depends on judging people's character, literally. So keep that in mind before you come at me. If you're going to come at me, come correct. If you're going to come at me with facts, come at me with a debate, come at me with whatever it is that you think you got me. I got him. I got Rollo. I'm going to title my video, Rollo was wrong about this. And the answers will shock you. Okay, well, fine. Throw it at me. But Rollo is a cult leader. Rollo is this. Rollo is that. That's not a debate. That's your opinion. That's just your opinion, man. I just work here. If you have a problem with something, one of my assertions, one of the things, like you have a problem with the data that okay, please tell me I'm full of shit. I would love to. And I think that's the difference is like a lot of the guys, when we talk about pickup artists, there is the guys who are willing to sort of incorporate new data and new understanding into their, let's just say their assessment, into their, whatever it is that they profess. There are guys who will just stick doggedly to whatever it is that they think is right. And then there's the guys who go, okay, well, maybe you're right about that. You'll notice that I did that exactly with Myron and with John and with Troy for a little while too. Myron had to shake me up a little bit, and I'm glad he did, because I'm going to go back and look at the principles. I'm going to go back and look at the psychological principles, evolutionary psychology, behavioral psychology, sociologically, anthropologically, whatever it is. Like the red pill is a very broad field of study. There's a lot of subfields of the red pill. You can actually just specialize in one if you wanted to, but I try to spread myself as well as I can. But it took Myron to say, hey, you know what? The dating scene has changed since the time of mystery, of Neil Strauss, of RSD, of all these guys who throughout they have good principles. The practices are still accurate. The underlying, like what's under the hood, still works, but the way we drive the car is different. The way that we get from point A to point B is different. Human beings, men and women, are still the same men and women that they were back in the, Greek times and the Renaissance and through World War I, World War II. People are still people. We still have our same underlying motivations. We still have our mating strategies. Women are still hypergamous. Men would, if we had our druthers, it would be unlimited access to unlimited sexuality. Now, are there social buffers for that? Absolutely. There used to be anyways. Now things have changed. All I do is, again, I connect the dots, man. I just point in the right direction. And sometimes just me pointing makes people uncomfortable. But it took Myron to say, hey, look, Instagram, social media, global sexual marketplace. I shouldn't say Myron was the first one, because I had these guys hit me up. And if you've seen, or if you've read, I have a blog post called The Global Sexual Marketplace. And I did that based on what these black pill guys were talking about. And usually it's like guys who are like Indian or guys who are like Asian, like Japanese or Chinese, whatever. And they were complaining and showing, like, in black and white and numbers about, women do not prefer Asian men, Indian men. Even Asian women do not prefer Asian men. And so I looked at that and I go, are these guys just whining, or is there really something to this? And some of them are whining, but not all of them. And so I had to give it a little bit of serious thought. And it was because of that video. It was because of the sort of in-person, in-field things that these guys were showing in this video about, like, how, even Asian women, they don't prefer Asian men, even in their countries. I prefer black men. I prefer white men. I prefer whatever man, because of the global sexual marketplace. And that's what led me to write about the global sexual marketplace. Because I've given this example before. It's like in those local sexual marketplaces, like say the Philippines or something like that. The tallest guy in the Philippines is like 5'8", 5'7". That's a tall guy in the Philippines. Most Filipino men are pretty short, right? They're 5'4", 5'5", 5'6", somewhere around there. If you're 5'9" in the Philippines and you're a Filipino man, you're probably doing pretty well with the ladies, or you were, until the first Western guy walked in, or the Spaniards came over, and they were 5'10". They're not even 6 feet. They're 5'10" or 5'11". And oh my God, because globally women select for guys who are taller, tend to anyways, because it implies security, implies protection, provisioning, and parental investment. That's the guy that they want to get with. And suddenly that guy is sexy, and they didn't know that those guys existed in the world. So what's happened is the global sexual marketplace has come into the local sexual marketplace. And now the guy, the standard, the benchmark for an attractive man is a guy who is 5'10", 5'11", and then higher and higher and higher and higher as the world becomes smaller and smaller. Well, as a result of that, I'm looking at these guys in the black pill who are talking about, oh, we're doomed. We should just go hang ourselves. The Asian race is doomed. Indians are doomed. This is doomed. We're all that. That's doomed. Well, rather than thinking that you're doomed, I would say that you need to become more adaptive and more creative and figure things out for yourself. That would be my suggestion. But the fact still remains that I had a preconception of something and that had it changed. I'm open to that. That's the difference. That's the difference between ideological purity and the scientific process. So when Myron Gaines says, we need to consider Instagram as part of like PUA or game or whatever, you're right. Holy shit, you're right. We need to change things up a little bit. Does it mean that the founding principles are wrong? No, it just means the practice and the context is different. So now we're going to have to change things up a little bit. Now I have to take this into consideration, because really what that is, when we talk about context, and particularly when we talk about game, we're talking about application of the red pill. We're not talking about the red pill itself. We're not talking about the underlying principles. We're not talking about connecting the dots. We're talking about how do we apply connecting the dots. And that's what PUA really is it's figuring out how to apply what we know about intersexual dynamics for the data sets that we have right now. It's not like this is the way it is and this is the only way you can do things. No, that's not. Things change. I agree 100%. Yes, we should. We should be able to turn on a dime. And if something doesn't work, then we abandon that and we try something new. That's the difference between an ideology and a praxeology. And if you read book 4, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And that's the difference here. So when it comes to pickup, when it comes to game, when it comes to red pill awareness, those are mutually exclusive concepts. They're not all the same. The guys who are red pill aware don't all look like Leisure Suit Larry. They don't all look like Mystery in his elevator boots and fuzzy hats, right? They don't look like that. They're guys that just like you and me who understand this stuff and they apply it contextually to how they live their lives. Whether you're married, like I can't possibly be red pill because I'm married. I can't possibly be anything else but a simp because, oh, he's a simp because he's been married for 25 years. They don't take into consideration that I've had a successful marriage and I still have great sex with my wife and I still have who is still very good looking. Thank you very much, ass hat. You go ahead and dox me all you want, fuckwits. Go ahead. At this point, I really don't fucking care anymore. I really don't care. Because you only prove my point. You only back up and reinforce everything I've ever said on this show or any other fucking show I've ever been on. I've told you the truth. I am who I say I am. That's it. End of story. You want to talk about principles? You want to talk about fundamentals? You want to talk about issues? You want to talk about like, oh, you're wrong about hypergamy. You're wrong about the soulmate. You're wrong about, whatever it is, spinning plates or whatever. Okay, let's have that conversation. I will invite anybody on this show to talk about those principles. If you want to have a debate with Rollo Tomassi about you're a cult leader, you're a PUA, that's not a debate. That's just you fucking mouthing off is what that is. So take that however you want to mean it or however you want it to mean. Asanji says game works and hard to learn is that what pisses people and it's hard to learn. That's what pisses people off or it's bad. Therefore it shouldn't work. And this is the mystery method. Is the mystery method valid today? In application, it's not as valid as it used to be. There's certainly certain parts of it that are. I think people think that because I refer to mystery and I refer to some of his earlier work as kind of like foundational, that I agree with every part of it. I don't. And I know that sounds kind of like wishy-washy or whatever, but I'll tell you the parts that I don't. I don't agree with him when it comes to comfort. I don't agree with him when it comes to the rapport side of things, because I think that too many guys get lost in that. Like here's the thing. For all the people who say, do you think mystery method is still valid today? Can you name the 3 parts of seduction? Can you? Can you name any of the 3 elements or the 3 major points of mystery method? Can you? 90% of people will not be able to do that. Not without Google, not without going on YouTube and figuring out, oh, well, what did he say back in 2006? Then they'll tell you like that suddenly they're freaking experts, right? But right now, just without Googling, without anything, could you name those things? I doubt it. I can. It's like seduction, comfort, attraction, attraction, comfort, and then seduction. Those are the 3 main principles of now how you go about inspiring those things and stoking those things. That's different. How you calibrate. Do you know what calibration is? Do you? Is it different than congruency? Yes, it is. But a lot of people always they mix those 2 things up. Oh, I'm trying to calibrate, but I don't know what congruency is. You tell me, Mr. Man. If you don't know, and you're going to tell me, oh, do you think that mystery method is still... Do you think that RSD is still, the principles in there, the infields are still valid today? No, they're not, because the technology and the things that were going on back then are not going on right now. Not in this generation. You want to know why? I had this in my notes here. I got to put this, I got to throw this out there. Do you know why women hate pickup? Because of authenticity. And I wanted to get into authenticity a little bit here today too, because that's the number one thing. When I threw today's link up on Twitter, the first thing out of anybody's mouth is, people hate it because you're teaching, PUAs teach you to just sort of to fake it and not actually be a real authentic man. They don't teach you to be the best version of yourself. Yeah, well, you know who is? Guys like Tony Robbins. Guys like RSD who still want you to like believe that they're like ready for death, right? Like they're ready to like, apocalypto, right? they're ready for the extinction event. No, you're not. You're grifting and you're selling, you're basically selling the secret. You're basically selling the law of attraction. Well, should you be the best version of yourself? Absolutely. That's Rich Cooper, man. Rich Cooper will tell you all that till the cows come home. Should you be authentic? Yes, you should. That takes time. Guys want answers right now. That's the thing about PUA is the early PUAs and even the PUAs that are still like around today, who are still kind of like harping on this kind of stuff that's been around since 2004. Those guys are still operating from an old data set. They're still operating from what worked back then. And they're still, and maybe some guys need to hear this. You know, I know that when John from Modern Life Dating was doing body language mastery, and still is, by the way, another thing I had to sort of rearrange my thinking about is like, are guys really this dumb? And I didn't mean that in a bad way. Are guys really this ignorant about body language and social intelligence and talking with a woman? Like, why do they like, I can't talk to women, you know, help me. Are they really like that? Well, some, not all of them. You know, maybe some of the worst cases are, but like social intelligence is something that you have to learn by doing. Like I said before, it's learned experience. We develop our beliefs and we develop like our personalities based on learned experience of things that we do. And if you're not out there learning that, then yeah, maybe you need somebody to instruct you in that. But that seems like very disingenuous. And so you'll get guys who say, well, that's inauthentic. Any guy who's smart should know how to talk to a girl and hold her hand and take her to the dance and, you know, give her a peck on the cheek and say, thank you for a wonderful night. Good night, Susie. No, guys don't know that. That's freaking Happy Days, man. That doesn't, you guys probably don't even know what Happy Days is, right? You don't know what I'm talking about. It's like the 50s. It's sock hop stuff. We don't do that anymore. Your parents probably didn't even do that. So you have to think like, well, what is authentic? What makes you an authentic guy? And the reason why women hate pickup is because they believe, and guys who are like aligned with the feminine imperative, guys who align with identifying with the feminine, they think the same thing because they haven't been taught anything else, is they think that, well, if the guy's not real, he's not authentic, then he shouldn't be even talking to a girl. Well, how's he going to learn? How's he going to, if you don't take that chance, if you don't jump, how do you know the parachute works? If you don't jump, how are you ever going to learn to surf if you don't get in the freaking waves, man? You have to get out there. You have to pretend like you know what the hell you're doing if you fall on your ass a few times. How does a white belt go to becoming a black belt? You get your ass kicked a lot, man. Ask me how I know. You have to go out at some point. You have to decide, hey, I'm going to take action and I'm going to do this. And I'm going to pretend I know what I'm doing for a little while. And then I'm going to learn. Or I'm going to take instruction. It's like Robert Greene's mastery. At some point, you have to become the apprentice. And apprenticeship means you have to get there and get your hands dirty. So how can you do that? How can you be the authentic guy if you're not willing to go get your hands dirty? Or if you're criticized or shamed for getting your hands dirty, for actually going out there. Oh, Bambi's looking at me funny. Whenever I raise my voice, the dogs look at me weird. You have to go out there and you have to do something. And so when you say, well, you're not an authentic guy because those PUA guys, they're schmucks and they're teaching you all this stuff. Well, okay, let's look at what they're teaching. Are they teaching things that are bad ideas or are they good ideas? We can take those on a by idea basis and we can say, okay, throw that one out, but this sounds pretty good. You know, there is no one. Okay. Desire is not, you can't negotiate desire. Sounds good. You know, whatever you think is nonsense. Okay, well, whatever. It's like, Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee, you know, he's ostensibly the greatest martial artist in the world, right? He used to say that he would take whatever was useful from whatever martial art that was good for him, and he would incorporate it into his own practices. Good. Why don't you do that? Why is it wrong to do that? Why is it wrong to even like pretend that you know what you're doing? You know, fake it till you make it. Well, what's wrong with that? You know, become the, you know, act as if you have a 10-inch dick, right? So what's wrong with that? Well, the problem with that is when guys do that, they become competition for guys who think that they've got their shit together, who think that they are the definition of the authentic man. So you should get into the gym. Yeah, it sounds really good. Good, go to the gym. Okay, well, that's like going to the gym and saying, well, you're a fat ass, so you don't belong in the gym. You're just faking it here. You're trying to be somebody you're not. By what? Going to the gym? By learning how to like lift? By going and doing all this stuff? Now, nobody kicks you out of the gym. Like most guys, like when newbies come in or somebody comes, like people are very accommodating, very welcoming. But what I'm saying here is the example is this, is that if you go and you say, well, you're not an authentic man. So if you practice this PUA stuff, then you're a bad person. No, you're not. You're just learning how to do things. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't work. And the reason why women get upset about that is because PUA teaches guys the skills that they need to get around the hypergamous filter. And that, of course, triggers women's existential fear, which is getting with a guy who sells himself as an alpha or sells himself as somebody who just gets it, selling himself as a guy who understands women, selling himself and aping the behaviors of an alpha male who does get women, and she mistakes him for being an alpha or desirable or whatever, by order of degree, right? Doesn't have to be like, oh, well, he's fat. Okay, well, fine. But let's just say he's normal weight. He's not jacked, but he's not like, he's not fat. Well, should he be employing game? Should he be trying to learn social graces? Should he try and by game, I don't mean PUA, I mean changing his approach to how he goes from single and sexless to getting with a girl. Is that okay? Is that okay, Mr. Authentic Guy? Can he do that? Is that all right with you? Now, the reason why women get pissed off is because they've got skin in the game. They go, because on an evolutionary level, on an evolutionary perspective, if that guy turns out to be not who he says he is, well, from an evolutionary perspective, that could be a death sentence for her. You guys have heard me say this before. I don't have to repeat this. That's the existential fear of women, is to breed and to reproduce with a guy who tricks her into thinking that he's somebody that he's actually not. That's why PUA pisses off women. That's why that's why even a guy who said he had to learn game is a charlatan, is a scam artist, is a creep. The guy who, you want to know why, here's the short version. You want to know why you're creepy? I talked about this before. I've done episodes about this. Why do you come off as creepy? Because in some way, I don't know how, but in some way you're telegraphing to the women that you're interested in that you're not who you say you are. You're trying to ape the behaviors. You're trying to pretend that you're cooler than you actually are. You're the guy who doesn't get it, but you're pretending like you do get it. And you're expecting her to give you sex because you think that your act is working. That's what's creepy. That's what turns a girl off, is the guy who thinks he deserves sex because he's just who he is. You want to know why gammas, like what is it, Vox Day's sociosexual hierarchy? Why is it that women have this irresistible impulse to punch gammas in the face? Exactly this. Because they go and they say, well, logically, by objective reasoning, you should want to bang me and not that hot alpha guy in the foam cannon party in Cancun on spring break. Because I'm a much better candidate in the long term. I'm good for kids. I'd be a good dad. I'm in pretty reasonable shape. I'm not overweight, blah, 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 blah. And you can explain till you're blue in the face, and it doesn't matter because she's not interested in your rationales about why she should go with you. She's only going with why she feels the way she does. Remember, women prioritize emotion before they prioritize reason, and that's why gammas fail with women miserably. And that's why they turn into the Joker, right? Guys hold up the Joker movie, the guy, Joaquin Phoenix, right? I hope I'm saying that right. And hold up that character as if it's some sort of messiah, as if it's some sort of like, you're going to get what you deserve. Oh man, that's great. I feel good about it. Again, revenge porn. But why is that? Well, because here's a guy who reasonably should be on top of the world and isn't because everyone else in the world is wrong. There's a really great book. It's from the 70s. Maybe it's not a great book, but it's I'm okay, you're okay. And there's the principle of I'm okay, you're okay. I'm okay, you're not okay. We're both not okay. And then I'm not okay, you're okay. The title of the book is called I'm okay, you're okay. And it's supposed to teach you like the sort of like healthy ways of dealing with people and dealing with your own self-esteem. And it's, touchy-feely drum circle, kumbaya shit. But the principle is that everybody, in this case, like everybody else is not okay and you are okay. That's a gamma way of thinking. Everybody else is an idiot except for me. Yeah, except for you don't have any success with girls. You don't have any success with men. You don't have any success with anything else that you're doing, except for maybe whatever your sort of interests and hobbies are. Maybe that sets you apart. But by and large, it's not that people are idiots. It's that you're applying or you're trying to put yourself out there in such a way that you're saying, I'm the one that's okay and you guys are all idiots. So I would say go read that book. I think that would be on my list of books to read. Again, take it with a grain of salt, but because it was written a long time ago, but good one. Anyway, so that's why women hate pickup, because a guy had to be told how to get good with women. Because in an innate evolutionary perspective, The guys that women want to get with are good with women because they're alpha, because they are. They just are. They're the guys who are the naturals. They're the guys who are the ones that women instinctively go for because that's just who they are. And women don't realize this, that guy became who he is through sort of like a process of trial and error, or being rewarded for certain behaviors and then adapting those behaviors to his personality. And so therefore, when he's dealing with a woman and he's like, you know, naturals and left to their own devices would spin plates. They'd be natural plate spinners. In fact, a lot of them are. We call them players. We call him a player, not necessarily because he's an asshole, but because women can't lock that guy down. He's a high value guy that women can't lock down. So we call that dude, but he didn't get that way just magically. It's a process. Roosh actually wrote about this, and I've written about it as well, is that the guys that you think are naturals, who just don't need pickup artistry. Like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Those guys, they still had to learn the same things you're learning from PUA or from game or from the Red Pill, or from my books or from Rich or Ryan or whoever, I don't know, whoever your guru is. They still had to learn those things. They just did it like through a process of a natural process of elimination, process of just, you know, trial and error kind of thing. And we don't realize that because for them, it seems, oh, it's so easy for you. You're just lucky with the girls, right? No, you're not. You just were, maybe you hit the genetic lottery, but they still had to learn the same things that you have to learn as a guy who is not that dude. They just learn it sooner than you do. And they go on and live a different life. That's why when, the two people you should never take advice from when it comes to like relationships and dating and game and certainly PUA are guys who are quote unquote naturals, and then women. I think I've explained why women give bad advice, but I'll explain to you why naturals give you bad advice, because they don't know what they're doing. You just go and you talk to them. You know, if you ask a guy who's really good with women, who's had like a lot, maybe he's a baby daddy, right? He's got like 4 kids with like 3 different women. That guy will just tell you to be yourself. Just be yourself. The right girl will come along. It'll all work out in the end. It'll comes out in the wash. That guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about because he's never had to sort of have the insight. He's never been prompted to have the insight to think about why is what I'm doing working? Because you're naturally good looking. You're a mesomorph, and you've gotten rewarded since the time you were, you hit puberty with women's interests. And so that sort of turned you into who you really are. Now, those guys, sometimes they make really bad decisions in the long term, and sometimes they don't. It's easier for good-looking people. That's statistically true. But why? Well, because maybe people will say, well, that maybe it's because they're confident. Well, he's confident. He's found some confidence. Yeah, because he's been rewarded for the things that he's done with female attention and probably with male friendship and opportunities and things like that as a result. We want to be around good-looking, symmetrical people. That's just how things work. Sorry, Mr. Gamma. You can rationalize it all you want. Well, it shouldn't be this way. Okay, well, maybe it shouldn't, but it is what it is. It is what it is. What did you say, Spin Doctor? Okay, thank you for that contribution, my friend. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your support. I have other things. I'm about halfway through my list of things here. I'm trying to be organized today, as odd as it sounds today. I came in hot. Sorry. I was thinking about this. I usually, here's my process on a Saturday and sometimes on a Wednesday is I'll get up and I'll go, what am I going to talk about today? Or sometimes I have a clear idea. Sometimes I don't. Today I did. And then once I've done the event and once I've set everything up and I've said, okay, gather around.
Hello there, children. How's it going?
Everybody gather around and whatever. Once I'm done with that, then I'll go take the dogs out for a walk or I'll go run with the dogs, just sort of clear my head a little bit. But I'm not really clearing my head. I'm thinking about what I'm going to talk about. And so when I do stuff like this, I sort of process things. And then that's when I come up with my list of notes. And sometimes if you notice, by the way, what are we at? 118 right now. In the description of all of my videos, I put relevant links. There are 3 relevant links in today's video. One of them is always default to game. Another one is, What else do I have in there? I'm trying to think what else I put in there today. All these are game related anyways, to give you a better idea of what I'm talking about. Also, if you're interested in book 4, it is now available. The very first link in the description right there is it. If you haven't received it, or if you haven't got it yet, or if you haven't ordered it yet, please go ahead and do so. This is really, I think, my tightest work. And it's not just, I'm an atheist, I don't get it. I'm a Christian, you're bashing Christians. That has nothing to do with that. Go ahead and pick it up. And a lot of the principles, a lot of stuff that I talk about right now, it's funny. I was doing Rule 0 yesterday, and we were talking about frame, and I kept coming back to principles that were in this book when it came to frame. And again, that same idea of, I springboard from idea to idea. So when people start throwing like, oh, here's why frame is important, then I go, oh, that kind of dovetails nicely into what I said about instinct, emotion, and reason. So, what'd you say, Daniel? Since 70% of women initiate divorce, is it your opinion that the majority of those divorces, the men lost frame or never had frame to begin with? Yes and no. I think the reason why women initiate divorces more often than men do is because they can, because they are incentivized to do so. I think it was in 2019 or 2018, I was reading this article about why it is that that women divorce good men, and meaning like there's nothing wrong with the guy. The guy was just, he was just who he was. He never really was anything different. I think one of the reasons why women initiate divorce more is because they expect that guy to have potential when they're at a position in their life where they need that guy the most. And what I mean by that is, and I said this before, again, this is in book 4. The stats are is that women and men, like the average age of marriage in the United States anyways, is 29.8 for men, and it's 28.7, I think, for women. In the UK, it's much older than that. But again, in the United States, that coincides with women's epiphany phase. That's when women are saying, okay, I need to get with the guy who's good enough. I need to find a guy who I can settle down with. I need the good dad instead of the good cad. I need a guy with potential. I need a guy who's on his way up. And as I've said before, men tend to hit their sexual market value peak right around 36 years old. If you're getting married, on average in the United States at 29 and a half, let's just say, you're still maybe 5 to 6 years away from hitting your peak potential. On some level of consciousness, women realize this because they know that they are on their downswing and men are on their upswing. So what they do is they make a bet. They bet that the guy that they're getting with, he's not the hot guy, not the fun guy. He's not the hot guy in the foam cannon party. He's the guy who was good enough. He was a good dad. 3 P's: provisioning, protection, and parental investment. He was there. The beta buck side of hypergamy was met in spades. That guy was the greatest. Well, then that guy gets to be, we're talking about 5, 6, 7 years later. That guy, maybe she's got 1 kid with him. Maybe she didn't have kids with him. Maybe she had kids from before. Who knows? But they've been married for a little while, and it doesn't look like it's panning out. It doesn't look like he's going to be the winner. He doesn't look like he's going to be crossing the finish line, like Rich Cooper says. Like, women don't care about the struggle. They wait at the finish line and they bang the winners. Well, not all women can do that. So they've got to get with the guy while he's still mid-race and hang with him and hope that he goes and gets the checkered flag at 36, 38. He makes partner. He becomes a surgeon. He becomes something more than he is. Women have to look at guys and evaluate them as prospects, long-term prospects for their own long-term security. What happens is when women get to be about 36, 37 themselves, right prior to like say 40, that's when they go, okay, either I got to stick with this guy or I got to bail. And unfortunately, in a gynocentric social order, we reinforce the idea and incentivize the idea that women should bail. They should get out. So, ergo, 70% of women initiate divorce. Women will say, well, it's because they're assholes and they're abusive. And no, the fact is, the stats still remain. 70% of women initiate divorce. Are all of those abusive guys? How of the 70% of divorces that occur that women initiate, how many of those are as the result of perceived or actual abuse? or infidelity or emotional infidelity. I was listening to Godsod's, I have the audio book for Parasitic Mind, and he reminded me of something. I think it was David Buss or something like this, but they did these studies on infidelity for men and for women. Now, when we're talking about like cheating, when we talk about like a woman cheating on a guy, and I've got a great Cosmo thing here. In fact, let me just put this up real quick because this was too good. I don't think that people were asking me if I was going to do some sort of critique of the feminist that was on Cosmo that was saying that she hated feminism or suddenly she has a change of heart. I don't know if this is the same one, but I found this when I was looking for that. And this is, I'll just share it really quickly here. It's just kind of stupid. This is actually a tweet that I got from them. So this is a sort of a plug on Twitter for Cosmopolitan. It says, if you're in your 20s, you shouldn't either. And the title of the piece is, I've cheated on every boyfriend I've ever had and I don't regret it. So when we get closer, when we get more into, say, the technology age right now, I think we find things out about women. We find things out about men, of course, too. But I think that in a gynocentric social order that has gone to great lengths to keep certain aspects of female nature secret in the new age, in the internet age, in the age of social media, you can't hide that anymore. I've gone on record as saying that, and I think I did a whole episode on this, like, why is it important for guys to be concerned with women's notch count? Well, we have different concerns than women do. Men do have different concerns than women do when it comes to cheating, when it comes to the potential for cheating. So the thing that that Godsod reminded me of, and I think it might have been a David Buss experiment or something, but they did these surveys, or they did this research on what it was that pissed off guys about cheating, women cheating on men, and then what it was and how it affected women, vice versa. And for men, it was the act of banging another guy. It was the actual physical act. And I've had guys, by my own experience and by like guys talking to me about like how they broke up with their girlfriend and how they just like, they torture themselves mentally because they think, I can't help but think she's banging that other guy. Like that's the thing that really like pushes them over the edge. And that's I can't, Rollo, I don't know how to get the images out of my head anymore. She's banging him. I know it. It's like Jesse's girl, like that's, what was it? And she's loving him with that body. I just know it. Like that line, that's peak men when it comes to like, I want Jesse's girl. I want her to be with me. I want her to be banging me. It's the physical act. For women, it's different. It's the emotional side of things. It's the investment that they have emotionally in that guy. That's why women complain, and that's why women will divorce men for having an emotional infidelity. And they will go, again, something I also talk about in book 4, women will, especially religious women, will try to make a case, and those churches will try to make a case that if that guy has an addiction to pornography, he's not fucking other women. He might be jerking off to it. Or if he has sort of an emotional connection with like one of his coworkers, he has a work wife. He has like something else that's going on where he's spending time. You want to know why men and women can't be friends? Because women don't want the guys that they're really into to be with other women, to have an emotional connection to other women. That's another reason why you will not have an intersexual friendship. Because women put more gravity on the emotional investment of that guy because women tend to prioritize what? Emotion before reason. When it comes to cheating, for men, it's about paternity. It's about, I don't want to get cuckolded. The existential fear of men is cuckoldry. Simple, plain and simple. It's not rocket surgery, right? Somebody told me that. Anyway, it's not hard to understand. Men have a vested interest in not taking care of progeny that are not their genetic legacy, that are not part of their genetics. We are wired for that. We have a revulsion to slutty women. We have a natural revulsion to single mothers. You don't, like when Rich Cooper talks about like, here's why you shouldn't date single mothers. Men have an innate revulsion to getting with women who already have children. Usually they'll say, well, it's because she's, because the child always comes first. Well, yeah, that's part of it for sure. But the other part is your resources will be invested in a child that you did not sire. And that, on again, some level of consciousness on the hindbrain, the little pineal gland level, lizard brain for men, we know that. Why is it that most sexual abuse and most child abuse of children occurs from mom's boyfriend, mom's new husband, their new dad, their stepdad? Why is that? Well, maybe it has something to do with the fact that a male an alpha male primate does not want to have anything to do with the progeny of his former or his rival mate. We can make those connections. Those are ugly, and we don't want to talk about those things, and it's not politically correct to talk about those things, but that factors in. Human males have an innate revulsion response to women who are already knocked up or who already have children. That's just it. And so what we do is we socialize those guys and condition them. And we take that beta male who's a loser in any other aspect. And we say, you know what, Mr. Beta, you could be a winner if you just were the stepdad of these 3 kids by 2 different fathers. So we try to tell him he's a hero. You'll get laid. You might even solve your reproductive problem, but it's going to come at a cost of being the resource provider, the protector, the parentally invested mate of this woman who's already reproduced with 2 other guys. And that's the payoff. That's the trade-off. We don't talk about that. You're never going to hear that from Rollo Tomassi on Joe Rogan. You won't hear that. You won't hear that also on Tim Pool. Rollo Tomassi on Tim Pool. You will not hear that because they don't want to talk about those things because that's ugly. That's harsh. That puts women in an unflattering light. Them's the truth. And again, I just work here. So you can go and turn that into a moral issue, an ethical issue, an emotional issue. I don't care, whether you're male, female, whatever it is, or how invested a guy you are, or how morally superior you are because you're not the stepdad. You're the dad who stepped up. The same thing is that all you are doing is completing that woman's mating strategy. That's what you're doing. From a practical, pragmatic perspective, that's what you are doing at the expense of your own, at the expense of your resources, at the expense of everything else. And do you think that you're going to be appreciated for that? They might pat you on the back. You might get a nice card for Father's Day. But other than that, you're doing what you're supposed to do because we've made it something that is taken for granted. There, sorry, I'm done. And that's the long way of saying, yes, I 100% agree that men do tend to lose the frame in marriage. In fact, they lose the frame before they get into marriage. In fact, if marriage seems like a good idea to you from a practical sense right now, if you're trying to think of practical reasons why you should get married, you've already lost frame. Simple as that. It's an emotional decision for sure. Absolutely it is. I didn't get married because I thought, it will be really good on tax-wise and all this. No, because it was what I did. It was a good idea at the time. And I'm glad it panned out, and I'm glad I'm red pill enough to make things work. So, and the proof is in the pudding, right? It's proof of concept. I'm not saying you're going to have the same success as Rollo Tomassi in my marriage and my kids or my kid and whatever else. I'm not going to try. I've never tried to sell guys on the idea that you can sort of replicate what I have, because I'm not you and you're not me. And the girl you're going to get with is not my wife. And the kid you're going to have is not my kid. I will tell you the principles. I will give you the tools. Thank you for that sticker. Blaster gun. Rollo, congrats on the new book. Thanks. Interested in private counseling session. How can I set this up? Sent a few emails with no response. I know. I'm sorry. I will get to I got dozens of these actually. JY, PA. I will be getting to counseling as soon as I get back from Miami. I've been doing a lot of book promotion. I'm still considering doing some traveling. I don't know exactly where I'm going to go. I wish they would just decide what they were going to do with the COVID rules and everything. I would like to travel more and do a book tour, but as it stands right now, I'm not really yippee skippy on getting on a plane and sitting on a plane for 7 or 8 hours with a mask on me. Sorry, maybe I'm a pussy, but I don't want to do that. What's your thoughts on men's entitlement to sex. Why do men hate that women can capitalize off their sexuality? Okay, well, first off, because men have a burden. Okay, let's start with number 2 first, because that's the easiest one. Why do men hate that women can capitalize off their sexuality? Because sexuality, a woman's sexuality is her primary agency. Women, if a woman stays in even reasonably good shape, and sometimes she can be just fat, right? It doesn't matter. As long as she's sexually available, women will always have more power than men. That's why I keep saying women just are, men must become. And that's the second part of this part, is men have a burden of performance. We have to qualify. Do you want to know? I mentioned this in book 4 as well. One reason why men get really upset about like OnlyFans is because it seems like women have a lot of power. And usually they do. Like the most successful women on OnlyFans are somewhere between, I don't know statistically, but I would argue that the most successful women on OnlyFans are somewhere between like 22 and maybe 25, somewhere around there. Now, that's not to say that there are the rare exceptions of women who are 30 who can make it work for them because they remained hot and vivacious and whatever their teases, right? They learned how to do it. Not saying that doesn't exist. I'm saying that probably the top earners on OnlyFans, and I hate to even use that as an illustration, but it's the most available, it's the easiest one I got right now. I would say that the reason why guys simp for women, I've done a whole episode on simping. Remember that guy getting squeezed and all the money was like draining out of the guy? Why is it that guy simp? Is because, first of all, it's not so much the sexual side of things, it's that attention side. It's the, I want to feel like I'm good enough to get the attention of this woman, even if it's faked. Why is it that guys like prostitutes and escorts? Because it's a good sexual experience that doesn't require as much investment and does not require as much authenticity, right? Building themselves up into something that would in other ways earn them the attention or the arousal of women. So if I've got $300 in my pocket, I can go drive out to Mound House here and go get laid. I can even go have a 3-way with girls if I wanted to. Now I can do that. I can pay for it. I can give women what they want. I can go to Southeast Asia. I can go to the Philippines. I can go to Philippines with $50 in my pocket and have a 3-way, right? But that's one thing. It's another thing to be hot enough to be the guy that is skilled enough and hot enough and understands women enough and has good game, maybe he's even authentically, high value, so high value that he's got a girlfriend and his girlfriend's girlfriend wants to get with you too, right? And so you have a 3-way. That's a different situation. Now, can you experience that with money? Sure you can. You can buy whatever you want to. There's no such thing as an incel today. You can go, if you've got $100 in your pocket, you are not an incel. You can find a woman who will cure you of your virginity if that's the case. But the reason why guys get upset and why there are incels is because they don't want that. They want a woman who actually wants them. Like I said, you can't negotiate genuine desire, even when you are negotiating genuine desire. And there's no negotiation like hard, cold cash. Here's the money on the table, baby. What are we doing? What's on the menu? They'll give you a menu, by the way. If you go to they're collectible right now. I think you can even buy them off of like eBay. Like there's menus from like Mustang Ranch and the Moonlight Bunny Ranch and whatever else is going on. I don't even know what other ranches are out there right now, but you can go get a menu or go get a T-shirt from the Mustang Ranch and be cool, right? But what's on the menu? You can go and get whatever you want. You could go but did you earn that, right? Did you do something that, I should say earn? Did you merit that? Are you the guy who, like, for all these guys who will say, well, those PUAs, they don't teach you how to be an authentic man. Okay, well, are you authentic enough to get a 3-way? Are you authentic enough to get a hot girlfriend? Now, guys will say, well, I don't have competition anxiety like you do. That's not a competition. I'm just saying, do you merit that? It doesn't even have to be a hot girl. Do you merit that? Are you somebody who is attractive, either naturally or I guess artificially? Is that who you are? So there's the, I'll put this back up here real quick. So yeah, they hate the reason why guys hate the fact that women can capitalize on the sexuality is because it seems to them like there's nothing that women have to do. to earn that. Women just are, men must become. In book 4, as I was saying, in book 4, I go into why it is that women tend to have a more socialist, communitarian mindset collectively. You guys have heard me refer to the sisterhood über alles, the sisterhood above all. And that's really the source of that, the beginnings of that. You can go back to my posts on war brides, but the source of that is that women had to collectively get together. There's safety in numbers, there's strength in numbers. There's nurturing in numbers. It takes a village to raise a child. They're the berry pickers. They're the most vulnerable sex, and they rely on not just men to protect them, but a community of women to sort of insulate them. And that's where that comes from. That's why women tend to have a more communitarian, socialist mindset. So when you look at the statistics for enrollment in colleges today, gender-wise, look at how many women are there. And it's only growing. It's only getting more and more. I think it was 65, almost 70% of college enrollment is female. And that's just, and it's just been building and building and building. When you look at women in the workplace, it's more women than ever before. Like, to be a man is to be at a disadvantage. And the thing is like, even when you succeed as a guy in a precondition or a preconception that the only reason you did succeed is because you have male privilege, because you're a guy and it's a guy's world. So yeah, of course it's easy for you. That's the perception. The reality is that 65 to 70% of college enrollment is women. So you wonder why we have these complaints about how academia is losing its sort of rationality. It's losing its dedication, its obligation to truth, to objective truth. When we look at colleges right now, we look at them as like safe spaces. Well, you can't have Milo, or you can't have Ann Coulter, you can't have this person, this thought leader here, because that person might disturb or might in some way offset or off-put people or offend people. We don't want to talk about objective truth. Even if they're dead wrong, we can't even have the conversation and to say, hey, you know what? You're dead wrong about that. Let me tell you why. We can't even have that conversation because we're in a social order that is based on emotion. And that emotion comes from primarily women, from a gynocentric social order. So yes, when we talk about colleges, of course they're communist. Of course they're socialist. Of course they're, academia doesn't want to hear certain voices. If you say anything that is even objectively true, even hints at being objectively true, that is unflattering to the female nature, to females at all, you're going to lose your job. And that stifles open debate. That stifles a direction, or stifles a prompting, let's just say, towards objective truth. We can't talk about those things. We can't talk about IQ. We can't talk about men and women being different. We can't talk about those things. And so if we can't talk about them, then you're not interested in objective truth. You're interested in an emotional state. So yes, when there's 70% of women in enrollment, you're going to get a communitarian society. That's what I proposed in book 4. Yes, you're going to get that because women prioritize emotion before reason. And until we decide as men to say, you know what, we're not putting up with this bullshit anymore. We're going to look for objective truth, and fuck your feelings. Until we say that, you're never going to have your authority back. Until we say that, your gods are going to be goddesses until then. Until men decide and say, you know what? It's not about feelings. It's about objective truth. It's about rationality and reasoning. So yeah, when people point out like, oh, I can't believe that their academia has so many socialists in it. Of course it does. 77% of your teachers were female. Of course it does. 65, 70% of the enrollment for major college universities are female. Of course. Psychology. Well, I can't believe that, Rollo thinks that ovulatory shift is a real thing. Here's a study from an all-female study research team that says it's not. Of course it is. They don't want anything that challenges that. They don't want anything that challenges the good feels. Why are politics directed by feels before reals? I don't know how else to say it. I don't know how else to put it. That's why. Why are we like emotional children today online? That's why. God damn it, man. Like, realize this. So anyways, that answers your first question as well. Why do men's entitlement to sex? I don't think any guy today thinks he's entitled to sex. I think that the idea that men think that they should be entitled to sex is entirely a female fabrication of their brains. You want to know why? Like, I was watching this, one of the reasons why I did today's show's topic about PUAs is because I was watching some cutesy little girl who could not be older than my daughter, could not be 22, 24, maybe. And she's I put this in my notes. There's the Power of Snark. She's one of these snarky little girls who's like, wow, of course, look at this PUA. They don't look at the principles. They don't look at what the guy's talking about. They go, who would go out with this guy? all emotional appeals. Look at him. Look at what he's wearing. Who would go out with this guy? Huh? It's not about the idea. It's not about the things that he's relating. It's about how what he's relating, the information he's relating, how that made them feel. Because we live in a gynocentric social order. Exactly why. So when guys, like even just like Jamal Load, when you say, you know, what do you think about men's entitlement to sex? I don't think men really even believe that they're entitled to sex. Like I hear this constantly. Like when, and this is nothing that's new. Like I've heard this since probably 2010, maybe even before that. Like how nice guys are. They're only nice because they want to get in your pants. They think that if the more nice they are, that the more you owe them sex. You're never owed sex. And that'll be one article. And then the next article, it'll be like, well, if you did more chores around the house, and if you changed the diapers, and if you washed the dishes, then she might as well be your mom. Your wife will want to bang you. Does that not transactional? Is that not owed sex? Well, if that's the case, then shut the hell up. Stop implying that it is owed. See, women want the transaction. They want the good stuff. They want the beta male monkey to come and bring the bananas and to pick the nits off of her and to have some sort of service to her. But she doesn't want him to think that he's owed any kind of sexual access as a result of that. That's transactional sex. Women don't want that. I don't blame them. I don't blame them one bit. They don't want that kind of they want to have hot monkey sex with the alpha male. And if that's the case, then stop implying that it is the case. Guys are like guys will say, well, you know, Rollo, do you think women should have the right to vote? What do you think about women's empowerment? What do you think about women being independent? I'm all for it. I think you should 100% be for all that stuff. Yes, you should have the power to make decisions over your own life. The only thing I ask is that you take responsibility for the bad shit that happens due to those decisions, and don't blame it on guys, and don't hold men liable for your bad decisions, or pretend that men should be liable because something didn't work out the way that you thought it should because you exercised your independentness. Fine. Be independent. Vote for whoever you want to. And you know what? When bad shit happens, own that shit. It'll never happen. For exactly the same reason as like, why can women capitalize on their sexuality? Because they're the vulnerable sex. They always will be, and they'll always rely on men being protectors. That's just how we're built. I keep saying, like, guys say, well, we need to disempower women. We need to take away their vote. How are you going to do that? You're never going to do that because there's always going to be a guy who wants to get laid, who thinks he can get laid by fighting you on taking away women's rights. That's why. Because you have to qualify. You have to merit. Men, like the way that we get around the hypergamous filter is by meriting it. If you're not the guy that she wants to bang, you've got to figure out some way to make her necessitous upon you, or you have to find some way to do an end run around that hypergamous filter. That's why women hate pickup, because it does an end run around that. It apes the behaviors and it fakes it so well that women make bad decisions, or they make decisions to have sex with you that they otherwise wouldn't have. And women know this. How do I know that? Because women will try to find ways to legislate their bad decisions on those guys. just like in Australia, just like in India right now. Those are really prime examples. If a woman has sex with you and she thinks you're a lawyer, and after you got in the morning after she figures out you're actually a sandwich artist at Subway, then you're on the hook for rape. It wasn't because she thought it was, she was drunk, you were cute, and one thing led to another. It's you deceived her, and she would not have otherwise given you consent. She would only give you consent if she thought you were going to be a surgeon. If she thought you were going to make a partner in the law team, if she thought you were a B-lister celebrity or something like that, and it turns out you're actually a barista, that's rape. But we don't talk about the decision she made right prior to all finding that out. So why does a situation like that exist? Because of the existential fear of women that's being legislated right now. Women want fail-safes for everything. Fail-safe for abortion is a fail-safe for bad reproductive decisions. Rape, after the fact rape, retroactive consent or disconsent, I guess, no consent, retroactively, that's a fail-safe. I made a bad decision. I had sex with the guy who's actually a sandwich artist and he's not going to make partner in the law team. That's rape. I want some money. I want, Me Too, right? Everything is Me Too. Everything is Me Too. I've said that. I said this back in 2018. I said one of the reasons why the rise of Me Too, the hashtag, like Me Too, the hashtag has been around since 2006. You haven't heard about it until 2017 because they wanted to use it against Trump back in the day, and they used it against Kavanaugh, of course. They wanted to weaponize it, but the hashtag has been around for a very long time. Nobody ever says that. Nobody ever says, oh, how come this has been around? Harvey Weinstein. Oh, Me Too. Yeah, because Harvey Weinstein has some money, man. You want to know why it's more popular? It's because you see a decline in the marriage. Women can no longer use divorce as a means to resources, to reliable resources. So what do you see? You see a rise in illegitimate children. 42% of kids in the United States anyways are born out of wedlock. That means 42% of women are getting some kind of child support, either from the father that they say is the father, or you're getting it from the state, or both. They're not doing it on their own. They're doing it because these guys are being held accountable for her decisions, for her reproductive decisions. She's the one that decided to have the kid. And yes, I mean that literally, because when women say, my body, my choice, I can have an abortion if I want to, and I shouldn't feel any guilt for it, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, if that's the case, then your decision to have that kid is just as significant as your decision to abort that child. So you're having that kid because that's your choice. It's not the guy's choice. If the guy says don't have it, or have it, or I'm not going to be responsible for it, or I am going to be responsible for it, doesn't make any difference. He's powerless. In a gynocentric social order, women legislate their mating strategy. In fact, that's the first thing women do when they come to power, political power. Roe v. Wade, child support, divorce laws, you name it, Duluth model of feminism, the list goes, Title IX, the list goes on and on and on. The first thing women do when they get into office, they don't care about the body politic. They don't care about their constituency. They care about the sisterhood uber alles. Simple as that. And maybe afterwards, there's, if it happens to work out that it works well for their constituency, then that's fine. Their constituency is at least 50% of women who probably voted for them in the first place. And their allies, their male allies. So when you talk about entitlement to sex, I would say that is what women don't want beta men to feel like they're entitled to sex. They want alpha men. They don't care. Like, oh, he's a hot guy, of course, if he doesn't fuck me, he's going to fuck someone else. He's entitled to sex because he's the guy that she wants to have enthusiastic consent sex with. But the guys who shouldn't feel entitled to sex are the guys that she's unsure of. They're the guys that don't pass the hypergamous filter smell test. They're the guys that are creeps, right? No creep is ever entitled to sex, but the hot guy in the foam cannon party, I was drunk, he was cute, and one thing led to another. Sorry, I'm missing some of these. I didn't want to get too deep into my, I still have a few other items I want to cover on today's show, but I will go backtrack just a touch here. Joe Augustine said, Rollo, do you offer one-on-one coaching and consulting? Yes, I will as soon as I get back from Miami, which will be Friday. So hit me up next weekend. if you're interested in counseling, and I'm not going to call it coaching because I'm not a coach, consider it this: analysis. You want me to be an analyst on your situation? I'll be happy to analyze your situation and tell you what I think is going on. I'm not a coach. I don't go, hey, get in there and give it the old college try. It's not me. But I will tell you what I think is going on. So, and I'm going to be restructuring my counseling structure for payment and things like that as well. I'm not doing it for free anymore. I've got too many people that are asking me for counseling right now. So I've come to the conclusion that I'm going to have to charge something at least semi-significant because according to Rich, it sort of filters out the people who are less serious from the people who are. I try to give everybody, I mean, if you watch this show, you're probably getting something out of this show. Thank you for the super chats. I really appreciate those things. But I try to make it as universally accessible as I can. If you're asking me for one-on-one counseling, well, then I need to keep you honest and I need to keep me honest too. So I'm going to be changing things up a little bit. I can no longer do the pay as you go kind of thing or pay what you think it was worth kind of thing. Arnold. Hey, Arnold. Arnold says, why women come with just talk like a normal human being when they hear guys talking about game strategies? Well, because, and I'm glad you came across, wow, finally, a super chat that's on topic today. Thank you, Arnold. I very much appreciate your input here. So why is that? Why do they get why do women come off with the just talk like a normal human being when they hear guys talking about game strategies? Well, because it sounds like rote memorization, and that's always been a problem. And that's a problem I've had with PUA for a while, is there's two ways that people learn things. They learn it through rote memorization or they learn it through actual learning of a principle and applying that principle. So for instance, I can teach you how to do like multiplication tables by making you memorize 5 + 5 is 25, right? Or 5 times 6 is 30, and we can keep going 5 times 5, 5 times, and we can rattle this off from rote memorization. Or one of the ways that you learn a song is you play it over and over and over again. That's how I learn music anyways, through rote memorization until that becomes sort of like part of your like long-term memory. And then I can probably sing you songs from the 1970s for like some stupid sitcom or a theme song from a TV show or some silly, stupid little jingle from a commercial or something from the 80s or something. I could probably think of something like that, but it's because you hear it over and over and over again. That's rote memorization. And then there's actually learning principles, and it becomes something that you sort of becomes part of your personality. You internalize it. And that was actually something I wanted to get into today. Internalizing pickup, internalizing game, internalizing the red pill. So internalizing pickup usually starts through rote memorization. Fake it till you make it. Do these things. Try this. Say this. Run this thing. Neg hits. Cocky funny, peacocking, using props, amuse mastery, irrational self-confidence, those kinds of things. All of the stuff that is sort of a practicable skill is something meant to teach you something that has a deeper meaning. Wax on, wax off. Did you see that part in Karate Kid? All I'm learning to do is just shine his car. No, you're learning actually a principle that you're going to use later on because now you have muscle memory as a result of that. Now, you can make it into some woo-woo magical thing, like I learned to do this, right? That can be, you can turn that into a magical act, but the practicality of it is that you're putting it into like muscle memory so that you know what to do when the time is right. Okay, wax on, wax off, right? That's the principle. I'm not saying that it actually works. Okay, that was in a movie. Sorry. Pat Morita figured it out. So that's the rote memorization. That's the lines. That's, okay, say this when she says this. And that's where guys sort of lose it because they think that's the red pill. They think that's the game. Well, where's my notebook? Okay, I've got my notebook here. And Rollo says that when she says this, you have these options to say. Option A, option B, option C. Boy, that seems like a lot of work. And it is. It would be very much a lot of work if you had to keep going back to a reference book to figure out what to say when your wife gives you a shit test, or some girl gives you a shit test at a bar, or you're working with a female coworker, or, you know, should I flirt? Should I not flirt? Why is flirting so hard? Let's look at the manual. Well, yeah, if that's all it was, then yeah, for sure it would be tough. It would be a lot of work. And now, when that Rollo says spin plates, I can't do all of this with 4 other women. That's like quadruple the amount of effort I got to look in the manual for. That's not what it is. You have to learn it. It has to be put into like long-term memory. You're making a confusion between like active memory and mechanical memory, right? Like actively learning something is different than rote memorization of something. I actually played the lead role in Macbeth when I was about 27, 28 years old, something like that. Boy, that would ask me about that sometime. That was a lot of fun. But I learned the lines through rote memorization. And then what happened was, actors will say this all the time. It's like, well, I got into an exchange and I've said these lines a million times, and then my mind went blank until my co-host, my lead, or whoever I was engaging with on stage said this line, and that triggers the other line. Oh my God, I forgot it, but he said this, and then, oh, that's what I'm supposed to say, because it's this automatic, autonomous memory that comes back out. So is that internalizing it? To an extent, but internalizing something and learning something it accesses different parts of the brain. So when you have when I'm talking about pickup artistry, or we're talking about like, here's what you do in these situations, or run the cube, or, you know, or what's the one Ryan's gonna throw rocks at me. Oh, did you see the fight outside the club? Boy, that was crazy. Blah, 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 blah. You know, it's all bullshit, right? It's just an icebreaker. Is the line what engages that woman? No. It's the association. It's the emotional association. It's like, oh, here's this guy. He's just very animated. What happened? And it's not so much what you're saying as it is how you're saying it, getting you out of your comfort zone. Like I said before, you got to get off your ass and do something. Get your hands dirty. Well, how do I get my hands dirty? Say these things. Okay, I say these things. But what the guys don't realize is when they're learning pickup and they're learning rote memorization of lines, it's not the lines that are doing the work for you. It's the attitude and the confidence and the delivery of those lines, and actually taking the initiative to go and even try it in the first place. That is selling yourself on that girl. It's not that, oh, well, let me go run the cube on you, baby. It's not the cube. It's the fact that you went and did it in the first place. Most of these guys would never get out of their comfort zone to go and do those. In the early days, in the early pickup artist days, one of the things they used to have guys do was they say, okay, we're going to go out to the clubs and you're not going to try to get laid. You're going to try to fail. In fact, the goal of the whole exercise was to take, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 guys out and to go to a club. You know, they get them into the club, whatever, they get bottle service, whatever. They're in the club and they go, okay, there's your target. Go for that girl. Do you like that girl? Yeah. Okay. So first of all, there's the 3-second rule. That's number 1. That's a PUA tactic. Okay. If you haven't gone up to that girl and approached that girl in 3, 2, 1, you don't do it. Because if you don't do it, you're never going to do it. It's act. Don't think. Go up there and engage. Go up there and be personable. Go up there and talk to her. Even if you get blown out. In fact, the point of the exercise was to get blown out. It was how many rejections can you get in an evening? And it was important to go get rejected because it was getting guys used to the idea that outcome independence, right? I'm actually trying to get blown out. But it wasn't so much about the getting blown out part. It was about going and doing it. So it's not about wax on, wax off. It's about what are you learning that practice is going to teach you in the long run, in the long run. So if you're learning wax on, wax off, if you're learning these your katas, right? If you're learning your forms, are most of those practical? Probably not, but they teach muscle memory that can be practical. You have to learn how to fight, right? I'm not saying, oh, you learn Taekwondo, learn Kali, learn whatever. I'm just saying that the practices teach a deeper principle. They teach a different thing that is really about learning. So when we're talking about like pickup, game, and a red pill, the red pill is actually the meta of game, which is also the meta of pickup. So pickup is the practice. Pickup is wax on, wax off. Game is learning the understanding why wax on, wax off should be useful. And the red pill is here's how wax on, wax off actually teaches you principles about game. Here's why it should work. Here's what it looks like under the hood. Here's red pill awareness. It's like having the God's eye view. And I don't mean that in the literal sense. I mean like from a praxeological sense. It's why should this work? That's what interested me in the very beginning of pickup artistry or learning pickup or why is it that these principles seem like they should work? Why is it that people say that they've got some sort of positive outcome as a result of learning game? Why? Well, learning pickup and then game and then red pill awareness. Pickup is just a series of practices. It's like moving your body in certain ways. It's like function and form. What's the form? The form is the pickup line. The form is the cube. The form is the props, the cocky funny, the neg hit. That's the form. What's the function of the form? The function is, well, if you do that, she has to qualify to you. Why don't you buy me a drink? Cocky funny. Confidence. Well, I'm used to having women, buy me a drink. Why don't you buy me a drink? Smile, and actually, and then, so what's red pill? Red pill is why does that work? Why should that work? And then you take and all of those, and I hate to use game and pickup interchangeably, but game and red pill are both different sides of the same coin. So when we're talking about game, that's the practice. That's going out there and doing it. So part of game is actually pickup. Initially, it's pickup anyways. It's learning the practices and the rote memorization. And that's where people go, well, how do I learn game? Well, you learn pickup. I don't want to learn that. That seems inauthentic. Well, then you're never going to really be red pill because you're unwilling to go out there and try to put game principles into practice. Wax on, wax off. So that's that. Sorry, I got a little long-winded on that, but that's actually, now I can knock something off of my list here. That was what I was talking about, internalizing pickup and internalizing game and internalizing the red pill. When guys say, well, Rollo, I wouldn't want to be you. Don't worry, you won't be. I wouldn't want to be you. It seems like you have to always game your wife. I had Roosh even say that one time. I wouldn't. That's silly. Why would you want to do that? That seems like so much effort. Why can't you just be yourself? Why can't you just, let your hair down? Why can't you just let your guard down? Why can't you be vulnerable? Well, first of all, you can't, because vulnerability is weakness. It's bullshit. But it's a whole lot easier not to be when that's your personality, when you've internalized it, when it's no longer wax on, wax off. It's actually shit test, because you are the game. You become the game. Your personality becomes second nature. Well, how do I do that? You learn by practicing it. You go out there and you do it. And then you understand why that practice is valuable. How does that affect your game? How does that affect your approach? How does that affect your interactions, interpersonal reactions with men and with women, but mostly with women, because that's what you're focusing on anyways, because you want to get better with women. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. Mr. Black Pill guy. It's okay. Really. Go out and learn those things. Oh, you're just a snake oil salesman. Well, it would be. I would be a snake oil salesman. In fact, all of these guys who are like the quote unquote pickup artists, they are. You're right. 100%. They're snake oil salesmen if they don't teach you the game and the red pill that goes with those pickup artist techniques. If all a pickup artist tells you is do these things, then yeah, you probably are dealing with a charlatan. You're probably dealing with a guy who doesn't know the deeper meaning or doesn't know why what he's saying should work. He doesn't dig any deeper. That's how you vet for a guru. That's how you vet for people who know what the hell they're talking about. Because it's not just about the practice. It's not just about wax on, wax off. If a pickup artist will just tell you that. Wax on, wax off. That's all it is. Just do that. Just keep doing that until it becomes second nature, and then you're done. Thank you. Give me my $700. Yeah, you're right. That's snake oil. Because first of all, it's not going to work for everybody. You got to put it into context. You got to put it into such a way that guy can sort of relate to it. And then you have to say, here's why wax on, wax off works. Tap into your inner oneness. Turn it into some, and that's what guys do, right? They turn it into some foo-foo magical, let's go seek the guru at the top of the Tibetan mountains, and he'll tell me these greater truths of the world. Well, they're practical truths. They're just painted and delivered and spiced up with woo-woo magical thinking because they know that that's what guys like. That's what, well, certainly that's what a feminized social order of men want. They want the woo-woo magic that goes along with it. They want to feel like it's, oh, I'm going to take ayahuasca. I'm going to do magic mushrooms and find God. No, you just baked your brain. You started thinking things differently. It's not that there's no magic to it. There's no freaking, positive, there's no law of attraction. You just turn your brain into silly putty. That's all you did. And you, I have a new outlook on life. Yeah, I'll bet you do. Yeah, when you get hung over after a really hard night of drinking, you have a new outlook on life all the time. Now, what you do with that is really kind of, in the long term is probably up for debate. Let's see. So yes, I do one-on-one coaching. Arnold said, why do women come with just talk normal? Okay, well, talk normal is what women want from a guy that they're attracted. They don't, if a guy's arousing, is attractive to that woman, it doesn't matter how normal that guy is. She's not, like, remember, attraction's not a choice. Arousal, I should say this, attraction can be a choice, but arousal is definitely not a choice. Women are either aroused by you or they're not. Can you find ways to prompt and incentivize arousal? Yes, you can do that. You can incentivize attraction as well, but it's either on or it's off. It's not some like circumstantial thing. Like, oh, I just happen to be attracted to him. That's kind of like St. George and the Dragon, right? You slay the dragon and you do a service for Milady, and she has her the rest of her life. She is has endless gratitude and appreciation for saving her life. And now she wants to bang you, and now she wants to have babies with you. That's the idealized magical thinking when it comes to the transactional nature of sex. So, and so much so that it has entered into sort of our mythological lexicon. St. George and the Dragon, right? Slay the dragons, Dragon Slayer. That was a great movie. Go watch that. 1982. Galen Brad Warden. Yes, I'm a nerd. So yeah. Let's see. Just talk like, so when you're just talking like normal, it's like, yeah, women want you to talk like normal as long as she's attracted and aroused by you. Because the reason why, Arnold, the reason why women say that is because when you are somebody that they are aroused by or are attracted by, and hopefully both, but usually aroused is good enough. They want you to be social enough that you can carry on a conversation. That's a perfect example of incongruity. So when women say, just talk like a normal human being. Well, if you're a nerd and a dork and a gamma male, you're probably not talking like a normal human being. Well, what is a normal human being? Give me the definition of that. Oh, how the hot guys that I like talk. That's it. The guys that I like, the guys that I want to get with, the guys whose frame I want to enter into, those guys, they talk in a certain way, and you're not talking like that. You're incongruent. And then, of course, if you're like a hot guy, if you're like a guy who's like, in shape and you're the arousing guy, you're the again, abstract term, alpha male. If you're that guy and you start talking like a gamma, you start talking like a beta, you start talking like a simp, you're incongruent because she's aroused by you. And she says, because there's nothing more off-putting, by the way, than a guy that a woman is very aroused by, but yet he talks like a dork, or he has a high pitch, hi, that kind of, instead of the low, like, Barry White, let's get it on. You don't have that. And you have, for whatever reason, maybe you just have some sort of, vocal cord issue. I don't know. That incongruency right there is she's expecting one thing behaviorally that she's not getting from you visually. So that's when women say, well, he's a really hot guy. He's a hunk, right? He's a really hot guy. He looks like The Rock, but he's wearing a pink tutu or a slingshot or a bikini. That's incongruency. That's why I put that stupid picture up, right? You got this big dude who's yoked, tanned, looks like he would get laid in any club if he was dressed in any other way. Put him in a different context, put him in an incongruent context, and suddenly he's gay, right? Suddenly he's weird. Suddenly there's something wrong with that guy. And when women see incongruity in guys, they have the same sense of revulsion that men have for women who are like sluts, right? For women who are not good long-term prospects as far as their own paternity is concerned. That's the same feeling that women get, although more viscerally, I would say, because we prioritize women's mating strategies above and beyond men's, like astronomically. Thrill Seeker says, so even the blue pill came from game. The definition of blue pill did, although I would say that it was more from the seduction community. So Thrill Seeker then says, I thought the blue pill was just the natural default state we were conditioned to believe regarding sexual dynamics. Well, the term, the blue pill, was just a convenient sort of catch-all phrase. It's I think probably you're debating terminology, Thrill Seeker. When we start talking about the red pill and the blue pill, remember those are associations with the movie The Matrix. I think that's people probably figured that out. When I hear people talk about the red pill, there's nothing that pisses me off more than guys who have been so anti-red pill and anti-red pill principles and anti-red pill as a meme or as the manosphere or the people who like refer to themselves. I refer to myself as red pill. Okay. Because it's convenient. If there was something else that was better, I probably would, but that seems to be the easiest reference. But everybody takes that and they turn it into their own little personal brand. It's whatever's true for me is red pill. So, I am an Amish. I'm Amish from the Dutch country in Pennsylvania. Therefore, that's the red pill. Okay. Well, that's not what it, started out as. When Cassie J throws out the red pill documentary, that's not red pill whatsoever. And I said this when it came out, when Paul Elam and the rest of these sons of bitches at A Voice for Men, Paul Elam and what's his name, Dean Esme, and the rest of these guys are blubbering their asses off in this documentary. I said, you watch. I said, this is not a documentary about the red pill. It's not even a documentary about the men's rights movement. It's about Cassie fucking J. And it still is to this day. And she still sells that whole shebang on herself. This is my journey of self-discovery. I thought I used to be a feminist and now I'm not a feminist. And now I'm still, but it's all about me still. And I said that. You can go back and look at my tweets. You can look at my blog posts during that time. I said exactly that. And that's exactly what happened. And I was pissed off because guys like Elam and guys like Dean Esme and all these other guys who were like quote unquote MRAs at that time, they hated the red pill, hated it with a passion. They hated Roosh. Are you kidding? They'd have Roosh on there and he'd be talking to him like he was his best buddy. And I think we can find some common ground. And as soon as Roosh is gone, he's like, yeah, that guy's a fucking asshat. Okay. Well, to me, that says you're not really, you don't really care about the terminology. You don't really care about the whole manosphere as on a whole. You just care about your own freaking, your payday on this whole thing because it seemed like a good idea. Another thing that people don't realize, by the way, and I will give away the fucking game on this whole thing. You wouldn't even know what the red pill was or Cassie J, or you wouldn't see it. You wouldn't even see that documentary on YouTube or wherever it's being hosted right now. You would not even see that had it not been for Mike Cernovich or Milo Yiannopoulos, because that documentary never would have been funded, never would have been distributed had he not put $10,000 on the line for that. Same thing with Milo Yiannopoulos. You would not even know her name if she had not appealed to the guys that were in the manosphere, that those sons of bitches in the MRA movement that they hated. It was guys in the manosphere, guys in the red pill, guys like me, guys like Milo was not Milo back then, remember? Guys like Mike Cernovich who just wanted to be called, he paid $10,000 to call himself a filmmaker. That's exactly where that came from. And so people, put down their money and she actually got like way more money than she needed for the distribution of it. Cause they did a GoFundMe or they did like a, something like that, a Kickstarter or something. And so that's why you still hear about it today. It's not that it was that significant a documentary. It's that it was that well funded because she made appeals to people in the manosphere that they all hated. And so it was the manosphere and the red pill that were sort of funding people who didn't like them. And that was how cleverly they did that. So you will never hear that on any other station. You will never hear that on any other channel. You will never hear that from anyone else. I was there. I saw it happen live in real time. Still got the comments. I still got the blog posts. So anyways, blue pill, red pill. The blue pill, as far as I'm concerned, came from the discussions and the terminologies that we were using back in 2002, 2004. And remember, red pill, blue pill, the matrix sort of analogies did not come out of Mystery Method, didn't come out of alt-fast seduction. They came directly off of the So Suave forums. And if you don't believe me, I can show you the posts as far back as 2004 where we were referencing unplugging from the matrix. We were calling it the red pill as far back as 2004. So when guys go and say, well, these black pill guys or doomers or whatever, like, oh, red pill is this, the red pill is that. No, you don't know jack shit about the red pill. The red pill's been around probably since you were in fucking diapers. And you think that it's like some novel new thing that just popped out of the freaking midair? No. Or you think you came up with the red pill? Fuck you. Red pill's been around for almost 20 years. Just about 20 years. If you went back to like 2001, I guess it would be 20 years. The red pill as a terminology has been around for a long time. Blue pill is really where the red pill came from, though, because when we start talking about like what were expectations, why is it that men believed the things they did about their kind of like natural game? Why is it that the pickup artist said, you know what we're doing isn't working? Why isn't it working? Well, let's try to find some techniques so that we can do an end run around women's hypergamous filter. They didn't call it that then, but like, how do we get laid? Of course, that's a natural, like you get enough guys together, they're going to start talking about what do you do? Let's compare notes. And as a result, what happened is they came to the conclusion that guys all across the world were plugged into what we call the matrix. They believe certain things should work. That's why the pickup artist was a radical shift. It was like back in the day, it was like something that like people got pissed off at. If you go and you look, and I've got I should have put it in the description. I don't have it. I don't have it linked below, but I'll put it in there. I have a post called the 5 stages of unplugging. There's actually 6, but like 5 stages of unplugging, and they're analogous with the 5 stages of grief. And the reason why I say that, the reason why I made those comparisons back in the day is because you're actually killing off your old belief set. The person that you were, the personality that you had, that was a result of your belief in, well, if I'm just nice to her and I just do these things and I do all this stuff that Disney and Pixar and my mom and my sisters and this female-centric society has taught me since the sexual revolution, if I just follow the plan, trust the process, then I'll get laid. Then I'll just be her friend, spoon with her on the couch, make her feel comfortable, do all of these things that the PUAs were saying, what, are you out of your fucking mind? You need to inspire lust. You need to inspire dread. You need to inspire urgency, sexual tension, familiarity, comfort, rapport. This is why I differ from mystery. Familiarity is, not, as they say, it breeds contempt, but familiarity and comfort and rapport are anti-seductive. That's blue pill. Believing that you should, we got to be your friend first, and you got to do this. No, she's not friends with the hot guy in the foam cannon party when she meets him in Cancun on spring break. They're not friends. They don't even know each other. He's hot. I was drunk. He was hot. And one thing led to another. That's that spontaneous urgency, that spontaneous tension, competition anxiety, all that stuff. And we go, that sounds very counterintuitive to what the blue pill and the matrix has taught these guys from, like, I know, because I was taught it from the 80s and the 90s. Be your friend. Like, if you go and you watch any sitcom from the late 70s all the way up into the late 90s, that 20-year stretch right there, if you watch any sitcom, you will see the blue pill like right up in your grill, man. We talk about it, we laugh about it here on this channel all the time. Is, if you go back and you listen to those sappy power ballads from REO Speedwagon or Journey or Styx or I don't know, whatever, you go and listen to those songs and you go, what the fuck was I thinking? how is this how did I ever get into, what's a catchy tune, but you know, how did I get into that? Well, that's the blueprint, because that is what was teaching you your expectations. That was giving you your ideals. Well, once I see her across the gymnasium at the middle school dance, then, you know, the stars will align and we'll magically have babies. No, that's the blue pill. It's teaching you what I think a lot of people mistake the blue pill for like maliciousness. It can be. It can't. I think one of the things that like a lot of doomers get pissed off at is they get pissed off not so much at women, but at themselves, because they believed in the lies and they believed in the matrix bullshit for too long. Like they hate themselves. Well, hate themselves. There's not so much self-loathing, but they hate the fact that they made decisions that affected their lives based on bad information, based on blue pill conditioning, based on what would work best for women's mating strategies, but not for guys. You know, because if you go by the blue pill, then you're a superhero for, you know, wifing up a woman who's got 3 kids from 2 different fathers. That's blue pill. Teaching you to sublimate your natural revulsion to, you know, being cuckolded. Like when women tell me this, they'll go, well, you know what? The incidence of actual cuckoldry is very, very low. It's something like 10%. You know, I think it's a lot higher now, and we're beginning to see the real gravity. I don't think we'll ever know the real gravity of women's promiscuity and cuckoldry. Maybe in the future we will, but since we've been able to plot the human genome and we've had DNA tests and we even have like novelties like 23andMe, we're seeing it a lot in a completely different light. That right there is a perfect example of what I talk about in book 4, which is the new order data that we have today that we've never had in the history of mankind is throwing all of that blue pill bullshit out the window. All of it's gone. That's what I call old order thinking, old order understanding. The blue pill is literally old order understanding. It's the way you think things should work. And so, like I said, when you go through the 5 stages of unplugging, of grief, whatever, who you are right now, if you consider yourself blue pill, you're not really red, or maybe you're just getting into this for the first time. If what you believe, what you're offended by, what I've said, what anybody in the red pill has said that has offended you, it's offending you because you've been conditioned by the blue pill to think that that's offensive, anything unflattering to the female nature. In fact, women try to legislate that for the fact that you shouldn't be able to say those things. I shouldn't be able to do this. I shouldn't have a platform. Deplatform him. Shut him up. Cut his tongue out. All right? What is that? You cut a man's tongue out, it says more about you than it does about the person whose tongue you cut out, because it says you're afraid of what that person's going to say. Well, that's old order thinking. It's like if I'm a new order thinker and I'm a new order guy working with new order data with here's the hard facts, here's the rational male, here's the reasonable data, here's the new data. And even if it's not like 100% accurate, it's still new data that we didn't have access to before, and then maybe we're still refining, but it's challenging old order blue pill thinking. And you've lived your entire life based on the expectations and the ideals that the blue pill and old order thinking has made you into who you are, made you the man you are today. Yeah, you're going to be really pissed off. In fact, I hope you are. I hope you're even more pissed off, because it takes that being pissed off to start the trauma for you to start thinking insightfully once again, for you to start looking at things in a different new order perspective, a red pill perspective. That's the only way you're going to do it. Again, guys, when they unplug, it's usually as a result of trauma, unfortunately. Crisis, trauma. It's rarely sort of like, staring at the ceiling, having some sort of like magical insight. It's usually you have to be prompted to it. So yeah, it's like being unplugged. It's like having your old self die. And that's why I made the comparison to the 5 stages of unplugging is the same as the accepting death. Because your old self, your old blue pill, old order way of thinking, old blue pill self is dead, and you've got to get over it. And what part of that, one of the stages in that is like acceptance, but you go through denial and you'll rage and you'll get pissed off. And some people never get through that. That's where the black pill and the doomers end up. They never get past like stage 3. They never get to the acceptance stage, or maybe they do, but then they get to stage 6, which is the jaded side of things. Oh, it's never going to work for me. instead of seeing it for the opportunity that it actually is. Sorry, that's again very long way of saying that, but it's good. That was a good question, because that is very much part of what I was talking about here. Let's see, I got to why do women hate pickup. I got to old school game in the new order. Well, I already talked about that. Oh, by the way, now here's the best part of this whole thing, and I will get to the rest of these, but I do want to get to the last few little tidbits that I have here. I have there's in my show notes, I said this: if there is no boogeyman, no one gets paid. I actually picked up this line from somebody who was talking about Osama bin Laden. And this was back in the mid 2000s, I think, when George Bush was president or something. If there's no boogeyman, then nobody gets paid. There has to be somebody to hate. And that works with politics. That works with like interpersonal relationships. That works with PUA. That works with lots of different things. And today, the boogeyman is the PUA. It's Leisure Suit Larry. So both the TradCon, the incredulous feminist snarky little bitch who says, who would ever fall for this, right? That girl who doesn't want to actually confront what the greater implications, let's say, of pickup artistry. That guy, let's see, and then the black pill doomers. Everybody hates everyone hates the pickup artist. And if you disagree with them, or if you seem like the enemy, if you seem like the jock that gave them wedgies in high school, you're a pickup artist. If you're saying, hey, maybe you could learn to be good with women, you're a pickup artist. And my dogs are like looking at me funny. Are you guys playing? I should put over to the Greyhound cam right now because they're going nuts. Hold on one second. Look at now they're leaving. Dang it. Hold on. Guys, get out. Bambi. Sorry. Dogs are bugging me. So the pickup artist no one is more hated than the pickup artist, because he's the boogeyman. He's the guy that we can use as an example of an inauthentic guy. We can use him as the example of the charlatan. He's easy money, easy pickings. If he looks like John John's the greatest. John from Modern Life Dating. John, I hope you're still watching, because maybe you are, maybe you're not. I know this is going kind of long, but you're the new mystery. And not that you're like, have that kind of gravitas, but you look like him. You look like a professional wrestler. You look like Sergeant Slaughter, John. And so therefore you make a good boogeyman. Eric von Markovic, mystery, is 49 years old. PUA has not been what it was for a long ass time. So like, I forget, Ross Jeffries. Ross Jeffries is 62 years old. I went and looked up all the ages of these guys. I think, what is it? Owen Cook, 42, I think 41, 42, something like that. I mean, these guys are not like on top of their game. They haven't been hitting their stride for a very long time, but yet we use them as examples, as the pickup artist, the boogeyman that we're supposed to hate. No, I wouldn't want to be like those guys. They're not authentic. Well, what is authentic? Tell me what authentic is. Authentic like you? When I spelled out the definition of what I was just thrown out as like, well, what makes a guy alpha? What's not? And I've said this before. I'll say it again. Is alpha is a mindset. It is not a demographic. There are alpha drug dealers that are fill the prisons. Alpha gang members, alpha gang leaders they're way more alpha than most guys really want to give them credit for. Okay. And there's alphas who are, the guys who are your pastor at your church, right? Maybe, I don't know. Leaders of industry. He's got a good job. He's got his own house. He's got his shit together. He's an entrepreneur. He's an alpha male. And maybe he is. Maybe he's like yoked and he's got his shit together. He's an alpha male, right? I've given you the examples of Captain America and Iron Man. Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. They're both alpha, but they're alpha in their own different ways. Tony Stark is an asshole, but he's an asshole that women love. They can't get enough of the guy. He's got his shit together. Yeah, he does. So does Steve Rogers, but he's a nice guy. He's a cool guy. He's like, American way, like Superman and Batman. They're both good guys. They're both alpha, but they go about it differently. So when I talk about those things, I start talking, I get into those definitions of like what is or what is an alpha. What guys do is they relate to themselves what character do I align with? What character resonates with me the most? Is it Captain America? Is it Iron Man? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's Wolverine, right? He's alpha male and he kills people, right? He's an alpha male, but he's not like those other dudes. So, like, I'm a sigma male, whatever you're going to call yourself. The fact is that whatever you think resonates, like when guys ask me about like sigma males, they're asking me about that because they want my like input to like validate the fact that that's what resonates with them. That's what they think they are, or that's what they think they should have as a goal state for themselves, is to be that sigma male that are irresistible. James Dean, right? The irresistible. He's a bad boy. He does his own thing and he's a maverick and women just can't get enough of him. Batman, right? Wolverine, James Dean, Iron Man. I don't know. You can go on and on and on. They're still alpha, but it's whatever resonates. That's what's authentic to them. You're not authentic unless you're just like me. Like a guy who's like a chump and a simp, and like the worst simp beta that is like, spending $4,000 a month on his OnlyFans girls. That guy's just as authentic as you are. He's not trying to be something he's not. He 100% realizes that that's what he is. Hey, this is me. I'm authentic. Just be yourself. Okay, I'll do this. How come I can't get with a really hot girl who loves me just for me? Well, because just you is not somebody that women want to get with. It's not somebody that has any real kind of value. So authenticity is kind of like this. It's what's called a Boogeyman, right? That's Yiddish. It's a old Yiddish, right? It's bullshit. It's a wives' tale. It's a folk tale. I call it a Boogeyman, right? And no, I'm not Jewish. But that's what it is. It's folklore. It's whatever seems to work well for me. It's nonsense, but it sounds like truth. It's truthy. So when guys get pissed off at, like, if I say like Corey Worthington is the alpha Buddha, and I explain why, I go into detail. Now he's not anymore, but at the time I talk. If you don't know who Corey Worthington is, go look up Corey Worthington on the Rational Male. Put it in the search engine. You'll see who I'm talking about. There's other examples, probably better examples today too. But at the time, it was the best example that I had. And what pissed guys off was they're like, this guy's not an alpha male. He doesn't look like me. He's not the leader of the church. He doesn't have a leader of industry. He does not a leader of men. I am a leader of men. I'm authentic. I'm an alpha male. Those PUAs, they're not authentic. Look at them. They're charlatans. Why do they think that they're charlatans? They think that they're charlatans because those guys are teaching men how to do an end run around the hypergamous filter for women who are looking for authentic men. They're looking for men who give off honest cues. They're really honest. Women can be as deceptive as they want. Push-up bra, big boobs, breast augmentation, color their hair, makeup, high heels, sexy clothes, red dress, hoop earrings, all that. That's fine. That's acceptable, and especially in a gynocentric social order, and even not in a gynocentric social order, it's acceptable for a woman to be deceptive with respect to like what she is and what she looks like. Women as old as 70, 80, 90 years old. Hypergamy don't care how old you are, by the way. The algorithm is deeply embedded in the female psyche. It doesn't matter if that woman has gone through menopause. Hypergamy still is hypergamy. It doesn't matter. I'll explain that to you guys in another show, but I was just reading about that. So anyways, why does a 70-year-old woman put on makeup? Why does she dress, cutesy and funny and vivacious, tries to be at 70, 80 years old? Algorithm stays. The subroutine is still there. It's still embedded. And so, but that deception is fine. That's okay. We're good with that. In fact, men enjoy that. Please, ladies, keep doing it. I'm not saying stop. Keep doing it. But that's okay. For men, it's not. Why? Well, because we see women as the vulnerable sex. We see them as women who, we see them as people who, see how if I could phrase this correctly. We see women as sort of like, I don't want to say children, but as something that is protectable, that needs protection, that needs to have, like, we look at, I think men get really upset at pickup artists, at the boogeyman that the pickup artist is, because that guy has figured out how to deceive women. has figured out how to present himself as something that he's not. Wax on, wax off. He hasn't reached the stage of game or red pill awareness that would make him authentic and have him suddenly realize that he needs to actually walk the walk instead, or, walk the walk and talk the talk, and actually have ass in his britches, right? Was it all hat, no cattle? And have some cattle, right? Have some gravitas, have something that's respectability. Men have to also, I should say this, men need to be respectable. Women just are respected. That's a good example of this. Guys have to merit things. Remember what I told you guys about, like, women in, in colleges, and what was I got the question about, like, how come women seem so powerful at such a, their only agency is their sexuality. Well, it's because women just are. Men have to become. So now I'm going to talk about how men have to become. So if you're a pickup artist and all you know is how to do rote memorization of certain things, and it works for you, not only does that piss off the guy who's done a lot of work himself, like he says, well, I'm an authentic guy. I actually have made partner in the law team. I actually am a surgeon. I'm not a barista. I'm not a sandwich artist, but the sandwich artist was just taught by a pickup artist how to get laid. And he didn't have to do all this work. He didn't have to go to college. He didn't have to be a leader of men. He didn't have to go to the military. He didn't have to start his own business. He just figured out how to do an end run around women's hypergamy. And he was attractive enough, and he was maybe arousing enough to pull it off. Yeah. If I was that dude, I'd be pissed off too. And my first thing I would say is, you're inauthentic. There's something wrong with you. No, you just figured out the game. You figured out a hack. Hacks don't last forever. Women figure it out too, just like PUA. Like, women eventually, like, I remember when PUA first came out, and guys were like, don't you worry that women will figure out the game and they'll blow you out? Yeah, but then you adapt. Then you do an end run around that. It's evolution, right? Adapt or die. So, and men have been doing this for forever, by the way. Men lie. Men bullshit themselves into getting laid because that's what they want. Because they know that maybe they are authentic, or maybe they're up and comers, right? How do you, if women, like Rich says, if women don't care about the struggle and they wait at the finish line and they bang the winners, and they can't all do that, at somewhere along the line, usually in their 20s, they have to figure out who has perspective and who doesn't, who has potential and who doesn't. Like, I got asked that question today about, well, what about women in 70% of divorces? Yeah, well, they're divorcing because they have a fail-safe. They have an out. They have an opt-out option in the whole thing. And not only is that, it's incentivized. Eat, pray, love, right? Stella got her groove back. Let's go to Jamaica and get with a hot dude who's 10 years younger than me. You sell them on divorce porn. You sell them on the idea that the grass is greener if they divorce you. Then yeah, of course, they're incentivized. For most women, there is no real downside to divorce. So of course there's going to be 70%. If you go and you look at the divorce rates prior to the sexual revolution, they weren't no 70%. That men and women stayed together a lot longer then. Divorce rates, still a divorce rate, but divorce rates skyrocketed right around 1968, 1970. And they went up and up and up, and then they leveled off, and then the marriage rate came down and down and down, and the divorce rate came down and down and down. Surprise, surprise. When people don't get married, they don't get divorced either. Well, that sounds like stats. Yeah, it is stats. Keep going with it. That's New Order data. You have access. I could not have written book 4 had it not been for all of that. So anyways, when the PUA seems like, when people say, well, you're not authentic or whatever, well, again, or fake it till you make it. Well, you still have to make it. And when you don't have immediate potential and you're 25 years old and you still want to get laid, yeah, guys are going to say, hey, look, I'm not quite a surgeon yet, but I'm doing my residency. I'm not, I haven't made partner in the law team, but I plan to by the time I get to be 34, 36 years old, because now I'm going to law school and, maybe I'm just sort of an up and comer, but there's ways to do that. Is that guy any more or less authentic than the guy who's already made it? Well, hypergamy can't afford to pass up optimization. It can't afford to wait. So when a guy comes around and he seems like the real deal, whether he learned it from the Boogeyman PUA or he figured it out on his own, or maybe he's got real authentic value, respectability, whatever you want to call it. Respectability doesn't really fly very far for young women of guys. I mean, they want a guy who other men want to be and other women want to bang, but it's not so much a question about, oh, is he honorable or noble or is he respectable? They want to bang the guy. They want to get with the guy. And if he happens to have prospects and he happens to have potential, then so much the better. Now that changes later on for women, but women can't afford to wait for the perfect opportunity. They've got to take, for most women, have to take a bet. They have to make a bet, a long-term bet. And so when guys have already made it, if you're a guy and you say, and you're 34, 36, and you're the authentic guy, you're the real deal. You did all this stuff. You put in the work and you did all this stuff. You're going to be pretty pissed off if some 24-year-old kid is banging the girls that you want to get with, who won't get with you, but they're getting with him because some PUA taught him wax on, wax off. How do I get with these girls? How do I make this work for me? Oh, I'm getting laid. Great. People still throw rocks at me. I have a notch count of 40, 42, something like that. Most of that happened when I was playing in the LA metal scene during the late 80s and early 90s. And people did the same thing to me. I'm 22 years old and I'm getting laid like tile. And people they hate on it. Well, why would girls just, there must be something wrong with those girls. There must be damaged. They must not know what the fuck they're talking. I can't believe the women today. They go for these degenerate rock stars. And yeah, because I figured it out. I figured out how to get laid. Sometimes it got me in trouble. Sometimes it was just great. It was an excellent, fun experience. But I can remember guys at the time who would throw rocks at guys in the LA metal scene, or guys who had long hair, guys who looked like they lived like a pretty carefree life, because those guys were getting the chicks that they thought they deserved because they're authentic. Nobody taught me this. I mean, I had to figure it out on my own. There's no PUAs back then. But yeah, and guys will always hate on other guys and try to disqualify those guys if they have more sexual success than they do. So either there's something wrong with the guy, there's something wrong with the PUA that taught the guy how to get the chicks, or there's something wrong with the girls who get with the guy who learned how to get game, or learned game from the guy who's the PUA boogeyman. Yeah, of course they hate it. Of course women hate it. They hate it because it works. Nobody would be if game didn't work, if PUA didn't work, nobody would be talking about it in 2021. Trust me. We've been doing this for almost 20 years. If game didn't work, if PUA didn't work to some extent, we would not be talking about it today. All right, let me see if I can grab the rest of these real quick and then I'll get out of here. Game works and hard to learn. Okay, I got to that. R.B. Cooper. Is that Richard B. Cooper? D.B. Cooper. Thoughts on King, Warrior, Magician, Lover books. Stuff like that when it comes to like, I consider that sort of like the men's version of Eat, Pray, Love. I consider it the men's version of Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. The same thing with, what is the David Dita one? The Way of the Superior Man. It is woo-woo magical thinking or I should say that. There's some meat in there. There's a little bit of a steak in there, but it's covered up with this sauce of woo-woo magical stuff. And sometimes there's too much sauce and you don't taste the meat and you don't get the real content out of that. Do I think that things like King, Warrior, Magician, Lover here's what I would suggest. I'm going to give you suggestions. This isn't like a prescription. Whenever you see a book, whenever you see an article, whenever you see something that is categorizing you in certain ways, I'm a warrior, I'm a magician, I'm a lover, I'm a warrior, I'm the demon, I'm the lover, I'm the cat, and I'm the spaceman. If any of those like are applying to you, then you're being categorized. You're being put into the reason why human beings put other human beings into categories is because it makes them predictable. It makes it's so that we can say, well, you're this, or that's why astrology is a big deal. That's why MBTI is a thing. And I don't care what the fuck you say about MBTI. It's horseshit. It's Jungian, Carl Jungian bullshit. Okay. Are there big 5 personality traits? Absolutely. Do those traits categorize you as a human being? Do they define you as a personality? No. Personality is not static. It is mutable. Ask anybody with PTSD and they will tell you exactly the same thing. So anytime you read something like 12 rules for life, or here's 5 ways to get a girl into bed, here's this, anytime you have a step-by-step kind of thing, always your fur should go up. Samurai Flack says, it's possible human beings will evolve to handle the new order. I hope so. Actually, it's not possible. It's inevitable. The logic of evolution is always genes that produce a higher percentage in the population go up. Yeah, up to now. Because now Samurai Flack, and going ahead into the future, go look up. There's a great documentary, but it's a great show, great documentary, great series on Netflix. It's called Unnatural Selection, and it will explain to you like CRISPR engines, CRISPR gene drives, how we can now create custom-made organisms. And I would agree with you up to the point where our ideologies and our personal preferences and the things that we think are valuable to us today, eugenics will be. No one will have a problem with eugenics in the future because we will be able to eliminate certain genetic things. Blue eyes, blonde hair, whatever. Down syndrome is the big deal. I think that's where we're going to start first. What if we could create, even if you have the baby, if you carry the baby to term and you somehow change the genetic structure of that baby in utero so that it doesn't have, what is it? The doubled up genes for Down syndrome. That's part of the thing. I don't know. I'm not a geneticist, but the idea is this, or the greater principle is that going forward, evolution will be defined by us, by our free will, by our ideologies, by our choices. So yes, to an extent, genes that produce a higher percentage in the population go up until beta males say, we don't want any more alphas. We want to be the alphas. We're going to genetically engineer a race of betas that are going to be the new alphas. And when everyone's super, nobody will be. Jason the Dream says, hey, brother, thanks for the origin story and breakdown. Appreciate it. You're the godfather of game. Thanks. Wando, feisty Rollo today. Thank you. Who hurt you? Yes. Well, someday I'll tell you. It wasn't mom. It wasn't dad. It was a dog. Daniel Roman said, since 70% of women initiate divorce, is it your opinion that the majority of those divorces? Okay, I already got to that. Blaster Gun. Oh, you gave me a sticker. Thanks for that. $5 sticker. It says keep it up. I will. I try to keep it up as often as possible. Jam Load. I got to you already. Jam a load. Jam a load. Really? Really? Okay. What about watching now? Oh, this is Sam Shisaku, Japanese guy. What about watching naturals do their work? What about it? You have to remember that naturals are not doing anything different than what you would be learning or what you would do anyways. They just got a head start of you. I know that's hard to hear for a lot of guys because you probably only see like guys like, that look like they're yoked and everything. Remember that guys who are, I don't know the percentage of this. I really wish I did, but I think this is just from my anecdotal, nonsensical research. Whenever I go to a gym, I see way more dudes that are in shape than I do women that are in shape. That's just me. Maybe it's just because that's what is drawn to the gym or the gyms that I go to. I don't go to Planet Fatness, so maybe I'm wrong. maybe all the hot women are really over at Planet Fatness. But when I go to the gym, at least here and when I've been, let's see, the last 2 places I lived was Orlando and then, I go Las Vegas and then Reno. So of those 3 places, in all of those places where I've ever been to a gym, I've seen more guys who are in shape, better shape than the women that are there. Now, again, that might be because I'm going at like 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. I don't know. But when I've been there during peak hours, I don't see hot women as much as I see guys who are like in shape. I don't know if that's statistical. I don't know if that's different. I see more guys who are in shape with fat women than I see fat men with women that are in shape. Does that make sense? So I don't know what the percentage is. I know that like, what is it? 68 to 78 somewhere percent. Oh, hi, Ned. Of the human population, the American population is overweight or morbidly obese. So putting yourself into a better situation, putting yourself into even a normal weight class, at least puts you ahead of 70% of the game, right? So that's a good thing. But what happens is, as a result of that, you will start to manifest different behaviors because you'll manifest confidence behaviors because you'll get more options as a result, right? That's the nuts and bolts of it. The same thing happens with naturals when they're young guys. So a young guy, let's say a guy who's like 8 years old and he's a really cute boy and the girls really love him and everything, that guy goes on to be sort of the natural alpha male that gets a lot of attention from women. He's learning things earlier on about women's nature than you do. And for a lot of guys, the only time they ever learn anything is because of red pill awareness, or because they learned game, or because they got their hearts broken, or they got into a crisis situation that finally shook them up and out of that blue pill doldrum that the natural never had to go through. Because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. In some ways, the natural is actually worse off than guys who unplug from the matrix. Now, hear me out on this, because the reason why I say that is because a lot of guys, this is, again, personal experience, my anecdotes, the guys that I know who have been naturals in the past have been the guys who have unplanned pregnancies, or the girls have accidental pregnancies because they want to lock down the guy who's a hot guy. Why wouldn't they, right? So these are the guys who they're the fathers of like children with 3 different mothers. And they don't understand. They're just happy-go-lucky. They're the guys that'll tell you, just be yourself. I don't know. Women have always liked me. All I've had to do is just kind of smile at them and say the right thing. Just be personable. What is it? Talk like a normal guy, right? Now, that doesn't mean shit to a guy who's never, who hasn't had the same return on or reward or reinforcement from women's interest in him. He's got to work and struggle for every goddamn affection, every appreciation, every IOI he's ever got. He had to learn how to do that. That other guy, the natural, didn't have to do that. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, what happens is you do that long enough and you get to be 50 or 60 years old and your life looks like shit because you never had the insight that was necessary to understand women's nature, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. There's no reason for you to even think about fixing it if it always works. See how simple that is? I just think I need a freaking doctorate in psychology. Thrill Seeker. Can I put you on? Do I have you here? I don't think I do. I got AI. Okay, you're next. Thrill Seeker says, I think you might have skipped me. I asked if the blue pill also came from game. I already talked. Yeah, okay, so I did get to you. I thought the blue pill was just natural default for our state of society. Well, it is. Again, I'll just repeat once again. In a gynocentric social order, the blue pill is the conditioned state. It's the operative state. If you read book 4, go get it today on Amazon, right there. Link is in the description. I talk about exactly that. At the end of that book, I talk about operative state. And so your operative state right now, and has been really since the mid-70s, is what we would call the blue pill. What you expect to be true. What are your ideals and their goals, and the things that you have been taught should be a goal and it should be an ideal for you. Those things, that's the blue pill. Glock God, you didn't give me a super, but I'll read it anyway. It says, I just finished the first book of yours. It's insane. It's insane.
We're never going to score. We're never going to score.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you very much. I got one of these. You got one of these? One of these grip things? I've been doing like these really crazy monkey chords. When you hear, like, if by the way, if you want to hear the band, it's Trial of Ascension. If you want the Spotify link, it's in the description. I always put it in every one. But we've been doing a lot of new music lately, and damn, I have to, like, I feel like, ever seen an orangutan's hand? Like how long those things, like the other guy, the CJ, the other guy, who's the other guitarist, he's 24 years old. He's got like a reach that is just insane. And so like, I'm like, okay. Let's see. AI, I got you now. Here we go. AI says, have you noticed the phenomenon of women purging masculine men from the workplace and only allowing feminine, submissive men to work alongside them? Yes, that's a power dynamic. They feel safer there because those men, first of all, women compete for those guys. They purge masculine men from the workplace because they're looking for comfort, first off. If you go, and I've said that, I think I had this discussion with Aaron Clary before, but it was a principle that I learned from Josh Fluke. Now, Josh Fluke did a series on the American workplace, and then and I know that Aaron doesn't like Josh Fluke, but his series really dovetailed nicely with what Aaron Clary was talking about. He was saying, you know what, we need to abandon the American workplace to women. Let them have it, because it's not what it used to be. We've sold women on the idea that being in the corporate America is like the goal and the ideal. And what happens is when women get into those situations, like old school businesses, like the ones you're familiar with, like old school, like IBM, right, or American Auto Workers, or wherever you're looking for, like as far as American businesses are concerned or American workplace is concerned, they've all become feminized. And when you see how corporate culture has changed as a result, that's when you look and you see how feminized and how comfortable those conditions have been made to accommodate women. Kicking masculine men out of the workplace is part of that comfort. So we've almost come full circle. I've talked about this when I talked about the male spaces. So what happens is the American workplace was definitely a male space for a very long time. Now we import and we put more and more women into that. It fundamentally changes up American work culture, or the corporate culture anyways. And so now it looks like a kindergarten class. Now we have balloons. Now we have focus groups. Now we have team building. Now we're going to go play. We're going to have a softball team. Now we're going to have a ball pit so we can go and, now we're going to relax over here. Now it's Jeannie's birthday. Let's have a birthday cake. Oh, guess what? It's bagels this morning. Oh, good. Yay. And we need more pregnancy leave. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm saying that that's a result of accommodating women in the workplace, whereas before we never had anything like that. Or daycare. We need childcare at work so that we can work and take the kids here. Well, in what world did that ever exist before? Well, when women come in, that's what they do, is they change that. It becomes less about profitability and more about women's comfort. If they have to, they went to all that trouble to get the degree so they could move into corporate America, and now they get there and they go, this sucks. Okay, well, if I got to be here for 9 or 10 hours at a day, or I got to commute here or whatever, at least I can have bagel Wednesdays. At least we can have a ball pit. Let's paint the cafeteria colors, nice foofy pink, whatever it is. Whatever it is that makes it more comfortable, you will see that as a result of putting women into the workplace, that's what happens. So when we talk about we're going to remove masculine men from that, it not only is it a power dynamic, but it also makes women more comfortable. So Spin Doctor says, off topic, of course, is maybe the one reason why women hate hetero male porn is because implicitly evokes a burden of performance to live up to. When it comes to pornography amongst women and their estimations of pornography amongst women, a lot of women will say, I can't compete with that. That's their first thing out of their mouth. I can't compete with that. That's horrible. How do I do this? Well, it's not so much a competition as it is women would love to do, I would say 90% of what they see in porn. Now, I'm not saying everything, and they're not all comfortable with everything, every aspect of pornography, but the thing is that women are a lot more sexual than men give them credit for. I'm not saying they're as sexual as men. That's a physical impossibility. Men's sexual drive is way different than it is for women. But when it comes to what women would like to do, yeah, they would love to do a lot of the stuff that they see in pornography, just not with you, just not with the guy that they're attached to. So it's not so much about the actual act as it is about who they're doing it with. Remember, women approach sexual selection from a way different perspective than men do. It's all about quality. It's all women have an attraction floor. Men do not have an attraction floor. Men get off on midget porn, right? So, Abe Murray. In a marriage with bipolar personality disorder woman. I'm sorry. Missed all the signals. Missed all the signs. I will bet you money, Abe, you did not miss all of the signs. I would bet you ignored a lot of those signs. And I would bet that the guys who are around you who tried to tell you about those signs, you also ignored them too. I plan to exit soon. Well, that's the good news. What's the best way to minimize risk of revenge? She's shown no sign of being high conflict or vengeful. Yeah, not yet. Yeah, that's what everybody says about their wives before they're sitting across the table at the divorce settlement. I would suggest this, my friend Abe, go and go and take that question to Rich Cooper and Before the Train Wreck. He'll probably, I think that he's doing it tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific. And here come my dogs. Okay, Ned's right here. Can you see Ned? Okay, he wanted to be on camera. What I would do is this: is make sure that you consider the fact that there's possibility for revenge. If she is as imbalanced as you say, revenge is going to probably take the form of I'm going to kill myself. Beware of stuff like that. Be ready for stuff like that. I think the best thing I can tell you is just be prepared for revenge. But Abe, go talk to Rich Cooper. He's probably a better person to talk about that than I am, because he has exited marriages and has been attached to crazy psychotic women before. I think maybe you guys will agree with me. I need to do an episode on BPD for you guys. I did one for my Patreon group. I probably should do one for you guys as well, because I get too many requests for that. So I will consider doing a BPD / personality disorder episode for you guys at some point. Man. Devil Mountain Coffee, man. Rugby, you're the one that suggested this, and it just amps me up too much almost. There's a lot of caffeine in this. Let's see. I need to backtrack a little bit here. Hang on one second. Okay, that was Abe. Samurai Flack says, again, last Evo Psych question. The last, sure. How to explain beta males in monkeys. They don't build houses. Just bananas, orangutans, single moms are the norm. Yeah, well, remember, human beings are not monkeys. Monkeys are not human beings. We might have common ancestor, but we're not the same thing, okay? We do things very similar. There's a lot of parallels, to be sure. However, so how do you explain beta males and monkeys? Well, shouldn't they all be alphas? Remember, alpha is not just some... This is where I part ways with a lot of guys who think that alpha is just a genetic thing. It's not. It's a behavioral thing, too. You can take a guy, again, congruency. You can take a guy who is stereotypically, archetypally, alpha male. He's big and yoked and everything else. You teach that guy to be a pussy. Is he alpha? Is he? Is he authentic, right? Is he alpha? Probably not. So there's a nature versus nurture aspect of it as well. So the other part you need to remember, Samurai Flag, is that even the beta male monkeys still reproduce. That's why you want to know why, concealed estrus evolved in primates, theoretically, again, is because of the investment that female monkeys had in their own offspring. Whether that offspring was from the beta that they gave sexual access to for services rendered, or it was because the alpha male came in and pretty much had his way with them and bred with them. Again, why is it that human females and human primates, for that matter, are more communal, are more communitarian, will sort of circle the wagons kind of thing? Why is it that they try to confuse paternity? Human females do the same thing. They try to confuse paternity. In fact, they want legal, legislated fail-safes so they can confuse paternity. Why is it so damn difficult to get a DNA test as part of a live birth, an official live birth? Are you or are you not the actual father? Why is that not standard? Why have we not standardized that as a test? We've had DNA tests since the late 70s. Why have we not done that? because we are in a gynocentric social order, and that gynocentric social order prioritizes women's mating priorities. It prioritizes women's mating strategies above that of men's. So we're all happy and good to confuse paternity in a legal sense, and we got this new invention where we can determine within 100% accuracy whether that guy's the father or not. And you lied and said it was the guy who's got $1 million and not the guy who's the sandwich artist who tricked you into banging him, but you still want to have the kid. Well, you're having the kid of the sandwich artist, but you're tricking the guy who is paying for it. And it's, again, concealed estrus, concealed paternity, secretive paternity, whatever, covert paternity. It's cuckoldry. That's just a nice way of saying it's cuckoldry. And we legalize that, or we legalize it as enough that we can absolve women of the liability and the responsibility for that cuckoldry. In fact, I can find you user forums for women who the express purpose of that forum is to trick guys into thinking that it's their baby when it's not, when it's somebody else's baby. There's a black market for positive pregnancy tests, so women can trick the guy into thinking that it's his kid, and we're totally fine with that. It's not a criminal act. It's not even a crime. It's a crime for a guy to give a woman like the morning after pill. It's a crime for him to in some way instigate an abortion, I guess, or whatever. It's a crime for that, but it's not a crime for a woman to say it's your baby when it's not your baby. That's a result of a gynocentric social order. Why can we not see this? But that's part of it. That's part of it. And again, that's the macro. The micro is, that's why we have beta male monkeys. Because of cuckoldry, because of promiscuity, because of concealed estrus and sort of confused paternity, and the gynocentric social order / the sisterhood uberalis, the communitarian nature of it, the nurturing, it takes a village to raise a kid. That's all part of it. That's why. Paul said, the worker is worth his wage. Rollo for counseling charge, bro. Well, thank you. I plan to. ML says, you are the game, and then you become the game. For the woman, she is going to hunt you. Yes. Become the game. You have to be the red pill. It has to be second nature. You have to internalize it. Okay. Now, if you don't want to, if you say it's not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Okay. Well, here's and this is the last thing I had on my list here, by the way, was if you don't care, why do you care? If you don't care, why do you do live streams that say, oh, guys shouldn't be black pill? Why? If you're indifferent, if you really literally don't care, if you don't care what women think, why do you petition them for their opinions of you or me or anybody else? If you're really truly MGTOW and you're not making women the benchmark or the metric by which you judge your own self-esteem, measure your own self-esteem, that should never even occur to you. It should never occur to you to start a live stream. It should never occur to you to I got to raise the alarm, black pill, MGTOW. Why do you care? You do care. I know why you care, but you need to ask yourself that. Anyways, Asanji says, what can be said about game and genuine desire? Well, what can be said? I think when people talk about when I talk about you can't negotiate genuine desire, a lot of people think, well, don't you think game or pickup is you negotiating genuine desire? No, you're prompting genuine desire. You're not, if there's no genuine desire, if you're a fat fuck, if you are if there's no arousal and there's no genuine attraction there, you're probably not going to initiate it. You're probably not going to inspire it with game. You're probably not going to, there has to be at least some, if there's 0% interest in you as a sexual person or as a sexual being or as somebody she wants to become intimate with. I mean, for most guys, even just friendship and being a emotional tampon, women still have okay, I'll keep him around as a friend. Well, if that's where you're at, first of all, it's up to you to determine that. Most guys think they have a shot and they don't have a shot. But you're not going to negotiate real desire with her. When I talk about negotiating desire, it's usually couples going to like marriage counseling. And they go to the counselor and say, well, what do I have to do to make her love me? How do we increase the sex frequency? Well, you need to wash the dishes more. It's like it's always transactional. Why aren't you in the mood? She's going to say, well, I got so much to do. I got the kids. I got to work. I got to do this. I got to do that. Da, 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 da. I'm not really in the mood because of this. I'm always exhausted, blah, blah, blah. And he does more work around the house and he's still not getting laid. Well, it's not because of the services rendered. She just doesn't want to fuck you. There's no desire. The desire's right there. I hate it when I hear quote unquote relationship experts talk about you need to rebuild the trust. It's not trust. It's desire. She cheats on you because there's no desire. She desires the guy that she banged, not you. Remember, for guys, cheating is all about paternity and paternity risks. For women, it's all about emotional investment. So when a guy cheats on a woman, women are far more likely to forgive men's cheating if she has genuine desire for that guy. If she's like, because it's the emotional thing. Like maybe in that case, it is trust, right? It's like women I want to know that he really loves me. He's having an emotional affair with that woman. I didn't bang her. Okay, well, but you're emotionally invested in her. And that hurts, right? Because it's all about emotion for women. For men, it's like she banged another guy. I don't know if the kid's mine. I'm out. Bye. Usually, assuming the guy's got enough self-esteem and got enough balls in his pants to do so. And I'll tell you what, if you get cheated on, this is just me here at the end spitballing, but if you get cheated on and you take her back, you are the cuck. End of story. Period. End of story. Because what that says, whether you can be as cognitive and rational and reasonable and you can think she is too, but what you've just told her hindbrain is, I'm the kind of guy who has no options. I'm the kind of guy who will put up with this shit, and I'll be happy to take care of the kid too if you happen to get pregnant by some other dude. That's what it is. I'm the kind of guy who can repress his jealousy instinct. I'm the kind of guy who doesn't care about his own paternity. And if you have kids with her already and you take her back after she's cheated on you, you've just said that those kids' paternity really doesn't matter. Not to her subconscious, not to her hindbrain, not to that lizard brain. And you can go, well, honey, I'm really upset with you. I'm thinking about leaving, but I'm going to take you back. We got to change things. We got to make these work right. You negotiate all day long, negotiate desire all day long. But what you've just basically said is by forgiving her and by taking that shit, you basically said, I don't care about my own genetic legacy. That's what it's saying to her hindbrain. Again, it's not like a cognitive discussion that you're having. It's just that's the information. That's the 2 + 2 = 4 to the rudimentary pineal gland, whatever the hell it is, caveman lizard brain. There you go. Jim, 2172. I never understood the importance of a man's mouthpiece in pickup. Mouthpiece. Anyone can tell lies and BS. So why do women rely so much on our words rather than on our behaviors and actions? Well, because women prioritize emotion before reason. They do prioritize action, but words come first. And the other thing you have to remember that behaviors are an arousal cue. Words are really more of an attraction cue. It's one thing to say, hey, I'm going to be a lawyer in about 4 years or 3 years. It might be an attraction. You're just saying that. Your behavior is, I go to the gym every morning and I look like this as a result. That's behavior. So it's actually kind of both. Again, the medium is the message. And I think women really, on some level of consciousness, really understand that and can suss that out for themselves. But your words make a difference because what she's trying to do is lock you down. She's trying to get you into a position. Well, remember, it's alpha fucks, beta bucks. Words are almost always about beta bucks. Words can mean something about arousal if you're talking dirty to her, if there's something, there's something that is an arousal cue as part of those words. But remember, women don't get turned on in the same way that men do. You're kind of like, and a lot of guys do this. I'm not flaming you or anything, but a lot of guys presume, because they think women are just co-equal, co-rational things, that they get off and they get aroused and they get attracted by the same thing that men do. They don't. So you can't use it's like apples and oranges in some ways. AI says, Rollo, you are our Morpheus. Thanks. Carl Work says, how will the new media like Call Her Daddy affect men? Probably make a lot of guys more depressed than they already are, I would say. And then finally, I have Rollo, you saved my life. Thank you. You're welcome. And I don't know what your name is. It says, in my company, the HR lady makes a message of the day reading at the start of the day. This is very annoying, and she forces us to opinate. Okay, well, then fine. Take it at face value and opinate. Tell her what you think of that. Tell her what you think of those things. You know, I tell you, and this is again, okay, I'm done. Don't give me any more. I gotta close out. I'm already at 3:18, and I promised myself I wouldn't go. I'm going a little bit over because I won't be here on Wednesday. I will be with Myron Gaines in Miami. Watch Fresh and Fit Tuesday and Wednesday, or possibly Wednesday and Thursday. I don't know. Look for actually just go to Myron's channel and look for the schedule. You'll see when I'm on there. I'm going to be on there live by myself talking about the book, Religion, which you can see right there. And I will also be on live with Hotep Jesus on either Wednesday or Thursday, depends. The only reason I'm kind of wishy-washy about that is because we're supposed to have a huge blizzard blow in here tonight, and I don't know if they're going to delay my flight, which is good news because I like to go sled, take the sled out. But how will new media like Call Her Daddy affect men? I'll have to look that up. Call Her Daddy? New media? Sounds like sugaring, honestly. So anyways, that's that. I will not be here Wednesday. I will be on with Fresh and Fit in Miami, live in studio. I don't know how long it's going to go. I would suggest probably about 2 hours, but I'm flying out there. If you want me to sign your book, I will be in Miami next week. If you want to find out where I am, you are going to have to get in touch with Myron Gaines. I had some people asking me, I said, you're going to be in Miami. When are you going to be there? Where are you going to be? I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to let Myron tell you because the building that I'm going to be in, the hotel that I'm in is the same building that the show is in. So I'll let him take care of logistics as far as me going and signing and doing things, meeting with people while I'm there. So if you happen to be in the Miami area, in Florida this week, you can come down, check things out. Come see me. Maybe I'll sign in the lobby or something like that. I don't know. But if not, that's fine. Anyways, that is it for me today. So I decided to go a little bit over. The other thing I was going to say, like he was saying, my company, the HR lady makes a message of the day, and opine. Tell her what you think. Make it from a red pill perspective. I think one thing that guys do is I think a lot of guys lose their patience when it comes, and here's my parting shot. I think a lot of guys lose their patience with game. They lose their patience with certainly pickup artistry, right? I mean, the rote memorization aspect, but they lose their patience with it because they think, well, what's the point? Why would you bother opinionating yourself and trying to have an opinion? If she's asking for an opinion, then she's asking for an opinion. Don't try to reason. If you try to reason, and if you do, let's just say for like most guys, they don't have the patience to communicate with women on women's level. They think that women should come over and speak the same language as they do. Overt communication. Why can't she say what she means and mean what she says? Because she's a chick and you're a guy. That's why. And if you don't have the patience to learn that or to communicate in those, and I'm not saying you should. I'm not saying this is not a judgment call. Because a lot of guys will say, well, I'm a real man. I don't want to learn how to talk like a sissy. Okay, I 100% agree. But just calibrate your expectations accordingly. So you can also say this is called like picking your battles, right? Is that the hill you want to die on kind of thing? Pick your battles wisely. And then when it comes to running game or learning game, don't learn game because you're like, I want to get my notch count up. Or don't think that guys who are learning game or learning PUA or like want to in some way improve their lot with not just themselves, but with women and with, socializing even. Like they're learning social skills. Basically, that's what game is. It's learning social skills. So when guys say, well, how do I learn game? I need a book. Well, the fact that you think you need to learn it from a book tells me that you don't have social skills, because you have to learn it by doing. That's what human beings do. I mean, that's what we've natively done for a long time. We learn by doing. Okay? So do. And don't get pissed off at people. Don't call people unauthentic, because there's a lot of guys. And I did the same thing. Don't hate the beta. Don't hate the guy who needs that education, because he's already got enough problems from women, because women don't want to get with guys who don't get it. If a guy needs to be told to be masculine, if a guy has to have an education and how to pick up girls and how to socialize, even talk with guys, if a guy has to have an education in that, there's something wrong with him. There's got to be something wrong with that guy. Well, maybe he just didn't have a dad. A lot of guys don't. Maybe he's a lost boy. He's looking for the dad he never had. He's looking for Jordan Peterson. He's looking for a 12-step thing. I mean, again, pick your battles, but don't hate on those guys just because they are looking for somebody to help teach them social graces, social skills. Not just with women, but with like relating with guys too. Relating in a work sense, relating with family, relating with anybody. We live in a time where social understanding, social education, social intelligence is at a premium right now, because we're looking at a generation that has been acculturated and socialized online, not live in person, not dealing with it face to face. In fact, there are a lot of guys that are just absolutely scared shitless of it face to face. So again, measure yourself when it comes to that kind of stuff. You say, "Oh, you're a pickup artist." Remember, if there is no boogeyman, nobody gets paid. Okay? The red pill is not radicalization. The red pill is praxology. And whenever you hear some stupid little cunt at Jezebel or Huffington Post tell you, "Oh, they're radicalizing men to go out and rage against the machine." Well, God forbid you do that, but like, that's not what it's for. It's never been about that. The red pill has never existed so that you'll hate women. It's so that you won't hate women for what they can never be to you. If anything, we're doing, myself and anybody else in the red pill communities, we're doing the Lord's work, right? I mean, we're trying to help you guys with a socialization, how to talk to people, how to talk to women. Like, that's the first place. And most guys want to just learn how to be better with women. There's no magic pill. It's a process. You don't go from white belt to black belt in one session, in learning one kata, right? One form. You don't go from white belt to black belt immediately. You have to learn. It's a process. And that's where guys lose patience. The red pill wasn't an actual pill that I took that cured everything for me. No, you have to read. You have to go do. You have to experience. It's a process. You have to become the apprentice, right? You have to become the adept. You have to, and I'm not saying I have to be the guru or the teacher. I'm just saying you have to be open to learning in the first place. And that is a process. It's not like, boy, wouldn't it be great? Remember in The Matrix where like they put Neo in a chair and they say, "Oh boy, I'm going to learn. I know Kung Fu." Like they just, and it just goes through his head, and now he knows how to do Kung Fu. God, that'd be great. But that's not how people learn. That's not how it works. It would be awesome if you could just like upload, red pill mastery immediately. God, I'd be a bazillionaire if I could do something like that. It doesn't work that way. Human beings, and the process, and don't shit on the process. The process is, not only is it fun and entertaining, and the process teaches you what you need to know as part of the process. Anyway, that's it. All right, guys. I will see you guys again. Check me out on Myron's show on Wednesday. And then again on Thursday with Hotep Jesus. I will be back again. I don't know. I know Rule Zero will be on John from Modern Life Dating, his channel. He's finally coming back. He's back in Japan. He's going to be hosting on Saturday, and that will be next Saturday. I think I might be on that. And then if not, you will see me solo next Sunday on this Bat channel. So there you go. I hope you guys learned something from this, and I will see you.